Tonight, we are traveling to one of the most mysterious places on Earth, a place so deep, so silent, and so dark that even today, most of it remains completely unexplored. The Pacific Ocean, the largest ocean on our planet, covers nearly 1/3 of the Earth, and yet, beneath its quiet waves, there exists a hidden world that humans barely understand, a world of endless darkness, ancient mountains, silent valleys, and strange glowing creatures that have never seen the sun. Scientists believe that more than 80% of the deep ocean has never truly been explored, which means entire ecosystems may still exist there, undiscovered, uncharted, waiting quietly in the darkness below. Some researchers even believe that deep beneath the Pacific, there may be places where life has evolved in ways we have never imagined. Tonight, we begin a slow journey into that hidden world, not with rushing engines, not with bright lights, but gently, quietly, as if drifting into a dream. Imagine yourself inside a small research submarine, floating on the calm surface of the Pacific Ocean. Above you, the night sky stretches endlessly. Thousands of distant stars glow softly in the darkness. Below you, another universe waits, an ocean world that begins where sunlight ends. The submarine engines hum quietly. A soft vibration moves through the metal hull, then slowly, almost silently, the vessel begins to sink. The water rises around the observation window. Moonlight ripples across the glass. Small fish glide past, their silver bodies flashing briefly in the pale blue light. For a moment, the ocean still feels familiar, alive with motion, alive with color. Tiny drifting particles move slowly through the water, plankton, microscopic life floating gently with the currents. These tiny organisms have supported ocean life for millions of years, but tonight we are leaving their bright world behind, meter by meter. The submarine continues downward, and the surface above you begins to fade. The moon becomes a blurred reflection in the moving water. The blue ocean slowly grows darker, quieter, heavier. At around 200 meters deep, a strange transformation begins. Sunlight weakens dramatically. Colors begin to disappear. Red fades first, then orange, then yellow. Soon, only shades of blue remain. You have now entered the beginning of the twilight zone, a mysterious layer of the ocean where sunlight barely survives. Creatures here live between two worlds, the bright surface above and the eternal darkness below. A jellyfish drifts slowly past the submarine window. Its body is almost invisible, soft, transparent, like a ghost floating through water. It pulses once, and a faint blue glow moves gently through its body. This soft living light is called bioluminescence, a chemical reaction that allows deep-sea creatures to create their own light. In the darkness of the ocean, these glowing lights appear like drifting stars. Some flicker, some pulse slowly. Some glow steadily as they move through the water. The deeper we travel, the more mysterious this underwater sky becomes. Small, glowing fish drift silently past, their bodies dotted with tiny lights, like constellations moving through the sea. Far below, beyond the reach of sunlight, the true deep ocean waits, a place of crushing pressure, endless darkness, and ancient landscapes that few humans have ever seen. But somewhere down there, hidden beneath kilometers of water, there may exist something even more extraordinary when a place that scientists have only begun to suspect, a silent valley deep beneath the Pacific, where strange life forms may gather in glowing forests, a place some explorers have begun calling the lost world under the Pacific Ocean. And tonight, our journey into that unknown world has only just begun. The submarine continues its slow descent, slipping quietly into the growing darkness, while the mysteries of the deep ocean wait patiently below. The submarine continues its slow descent, slipping quietly through the dim blue water. Above you, the surface world is already fading away. Moonlight becomes faint, then distant, then almost invisible, and slowly, the ocean begins to change. The water grows darker, colder, quieter. You are now fully entering the mysterious region known as the Twilight Zone, a place where sunlight barely survives, between 200 and 1,000 meters deep. This strange layer of the ocean exists between two worlds, the bright surface above and the endless darkness below. Creatures here live in a constant shadow, adapting to a place where light slowly disappears. Outside the submarine window, small glowing flashes begin to appear. At first, they are only tiny sparks, soft blue lights drifting quietly through the water, then another and another, until the darkness itself seems to shimmer. You are now witnessing one of the deep ocean's most extraordinary phenomena, bioluminescence, living light, created by life itself. Some creatures glow softly, like distant stars. Others flash suddenly, then vanish again into the darkness. A strange fish drifts slowly into the beam of the submarine lights. Its body is long, thin, almost transparent. Along its sides, tiny glowing dots pulse gently. This is a lanternfish, one of the most common animals in the deep ocean. In fact, scientists believe that lanternfish may be among the most numerous vertebrates on Earth. Billions of them drift through the Twilight Zone, forming enormous hidden populations beneath the ocean surface. But lanternfish are not alone here. A larger shape moves slowly through the water. Its body is soft, gel-like, almost invisible. Long, delicate tentacles trail behind it, glowing faintly like threads of blue silk, a comb jelly, one of the most beautiful creatures in the ocean. Rows of tiny cilia move rhythmically across its body, scattering light in soft rainbow reflections. For a moment, the creature glows softly, then drifts away into the darkness. The deeper the submarine travels, the stranger the ocean becomes. Creatures here rarely swim quickly. Energy is precious in the deep ocean. Food is scarce. Life moves slowly, carefully, patiently. Suddenly, a bright flash appears in the distance, then another, then several more. A cloud of glowing lights moves through the water, like drifting stars. This is a school of hatchetfish, small deep-sea fish with bodies shaped like silver blades. Their large, upward-facing eyes search constantly for faint light above, waiting for food to fall from the surface ocean. For a moment, the submarine floats silently among these glowing creatures. Outside the window, the ocean looks almost magical. Thousands of faint lights blink slowly in the darkness, like a hidden galaxy drifting beneath the sea. But far below, beyond this twilight world, there lies an even darker place, a place where sunlight has never existed, a place where pressure becomes immense, where the ocean floor hides ancient landscapes, and where some scientists believe entire ecosystems may exist completely unknown to humanity. The submarine instruments continue to register increasing depth: 600 meters, 700 meters, 800 meters. Soon, the last traces of the twilight zone will disappear, and the submarine will enter the next realm of the deep ocean, the midnight zone, a place of total darkness, a place where life creates its own light, and somewhere within that darkness, hidden beneath kilometers of water, the mysterious valley we are searching for may finally begin to appear. The submarine continues downward, slowly, silently, into the growing blackness of the Pacific Ocean. The submarine continues its gentle descent, deeper and deeper into the silent Pacific Ocean. Above you, the faint glow of the twilight zone is slowly disappearing. The last traces of blue light fade into darkness, until finally, there is nothing left but black water in every direction. You have now entered one of the most mysterious places on Earth, the Midnight Zone, a region of the ocean that begins nearly 1,000 meters below the surface and stretches downward for several more kilometers. Here, sunlight has never existed. Not today, not yesterday, not even millions of years ago. This world has always been dark, always silent, always hidden beneath the weight of the ocean above. Outside the submarine window, the darkness feels almost endless. The powerful lights of the vessel cut through the black water, revealing small drifting particles, tiny fragments of organic material, slowly falling from the distant surface. This strange underwater snowfall is known as marine snow. Dead plankton, microscopic shells, and fragments of life that drift slowly downward from the bright ocean above. For the creatures of the deep sea, this falling snow is often the only source of food, and so many animals of the Midnight Zone spend their entire lives waiting patiently for these tiny particles to arrive. Suddenly, a faint glow appears just beyond the submarine lights, then another, and another. Slow-moving lights begin to drift through the darkness. The submarine moves closer, and a strange creature slowly comes into view. Its body is round, almost balloon-like, with thin, transparent skin. From its head extends a long, glowing lure, a tiny blue light swaying gently in the water. This is an anglerfish, one of the most famous predators of the deep ocean. The glowing lure acts like a trap. Small fish, curious about the light, swim closer, drawn by the promise of food. But the light is only a deception. In a sudden movement, the anglerfish opens its enormous mouth, revealing long, needle-like teeth, and the darkness closes again. Moments later, another strange animal drifts slowly past the submarine. Its body is long, almost ribbon-like, lined with tiny glowing organs. Soft pulses of blue light move slowly along its sides, like waves of electricity passing through living flesh. This is a dragonfish, a deep-sea predator, perfectly adapted to life in the Midnight Zone. Unlike most creatures here, dragonfish can produce a rare form of light, red bioluminescence, a color invisible to most deep-sea animals. This allows the dragonfish to illuminate its prey without being detected, a silent hunter in an endless dark ocean. As the submarine continues downward, more strange creatures appear. A ghostly vampire squid drifts slowly past, its webbed arms unfolding like a dark cloak. tiny glowing organisms pulse gently along its body, creating a faint, mysterious light. Despite its frightening name, the vampire squid is not a violent predator. Instead, it feeds on drifting organic particles, collecting tiny fragments of food from the endless fall of marine snow. The deeper the submarine travels, the quieter the ocean becomes. No currents, no waves, only stillness and the distant glow of living creatures. But far below, the instruments of the submarine begin to detect something unusual, a sudden change in the shape of the sea floor. Sonar signals bounce back from the darkness, revealing a deep formation far beneath the submarine. Not a flat plain, not a trench, but something else. A massive underwater valley, hidden nearly 4 kilometers below the ocean surface, a place where the ocean floor drops sharply into a silent abyss. And within that valley, the sonar instruments detect faint signs of life, clusters of movement, strange formations, something that appears almost like a glowing ecosystem. The submarine slowly adjusts its course, turning gently toward the deep valley below. If the readings are correct, this place may be something no human has ever truly seen. A hidden environment, a deep ocean sanctuary. Perhaps even the beginning of the mysterious region some scientists have begun calling the Lost World under the Pacific Ocean. And now, our journey is about to take us even deeper into the silent heart of the Midnight Zone. The submarine engines continue their quiet hum, guiding the vessel slowly toward the mysterious valley below. Outside the observation window, the darkness feels deeper now, almost endless. The submarine lights reveal drifting clouds of tiny glowing organisms. Some pulse gently, others flicker suddenly, as if the ocean itself is breathing light. A strange shadow moves slowly at the edge of the illumination. For a moment, it is impossible to tell what it is. Then the creature glides closer. Its body is long, smooth, and ghostly pale. A deep sea gulper eel. Its enormous mouth hangs open slightly, large enough to swallow prey almost its own size, but like most creatures of the Midnight Zone, it moves slowly, conserving energy in this silent environment. The eel drifts away into the darkness, disappearing as quickly as it appeared. Far below, the sonar screen continues to map the valley, steep cliffs, narrow ridges, and vast open chambers hidden within the ocean floor. Ancient geological structures formed millions of years ago, when the Pacific seafloor was still shaping itself. But something else appears on the instruments. Faint movements, clusters of signals, too organized to be random, too bright to be simple marine snow. The submarine pilot slows the descent. The vessel begins to glide more carefully now, because whatever lies inside this valley may be something very few humans have ever witnessed. Perhaps a hidden ecosystem, perhaps strange life forms gathering around unknown energy sources, or perhaps something even more mysterious, a place where the deep ocean has quietly built its own secret world. And as the submarine continues downward, the lights of the vessel begin to reveal something unexpected. Faint, glowing shapes far below the valley floor, almost like a forest of light. The submarine descends slowly, carefully, toward the mysterious valley hidden deep beneath the Pacific Ocean. Outside the observation window, the darkness of the Midnight Zone stretches endlessly in every direction. A silent world, untouched by sunlight, unchanged for millions of years. The sonar instruments continue mapping the terrain below: steep walls, narrow ridges, and a vast open basin forming the floor of the hidden valley. This place lies nearly 4,000 meters beneath the surface of the ocean. At this depth, the pressure outside the submarine is immense, more than 400 times greater than the pressure we experience on land. Yet life still exists here, adapting, evolving, surviving in conditions that would crush most living creatures. The submarine moves closer to the valley floor, and suddenly, something extraordinary begins to appear. At first, it looks like faint sparks in the darkness, tiny lights scattered across the ocean floor. Then more appear, and more, until the valley begins to glow softly, like a distant constellation spread across the seabed. The submarine lights reveal the source. Strange, towering structures rise from the ocean floor, delicate, branching, almost like underwater trees. These are deep sea coral formations. Some of them may be thousands of years old, growing incredibly slowly, only a few millimeters each year, over centuries. These fragile organisms have created a vast underwater forest, a hidden ecosystem in the deepest darkness of the Pacific Ocean. Soft white coral branches stretch upward, covered with tiny organisms. Small shrimp-like creatures move carefully between the coral arms, feeding, hiding, living out their quiet lives in this silent valley. Nearby, massive sponge structures rise from the seabed, some shaped like tall chimneys, others like giant glass bowls. These are glass sponges, ancient animals with skeletons made of silica, some of the oldest living organisms on Earth. Certain species may survive for thousands of years, growing slowly in the darkness of the deep ocean. A faint, glowing fish moves between the coral branches, its body lined with bioluminescent organs. Soft blue light pulses gently along its sides, like a living lantern swimming through the forest. The submarine drifts quietly above the glowing valley. Outside the window, the scene feels almost unreal. A forest of coral, strange, ancient creatures, and soft, glowing light scattered across the seafloor. For a moment, it feels as though the submarine has discovered a completely different world, hidden far below the surface of the Pacific Ocean, a world that has existed in silence for millions of years. And yet, the sonar instruments begin detecting something even more unusual. Beyond the coral forest, deeper within the valley, there are large structures rising from the ocean floor. Taller than the surrounding formations, irregular shapes, clustered together. The submarine pilot adjusts the vessel's direction, guiding the craft slowly toward the new readings. As the lights of the submarine move closer, the outlines of the structures begin to appear. Dark towers rising from cracks in the seabed. Slow streams of mineral-rich water flow upward from their peaks. These are hydrothermal vents, one of the most extraordinary environments on the planet. Superheated water erupts from deep beneath the Earth's crust, carrying minerals that support entire ecosystems. Around these vents, life thrives in complete darkness. Giant tube worms, white crabs, strange shrimp with light-sensitive organs, all living together in a place where sunlight has never existed, a thriving oasis in the deepest parts of the ocean. But something about this valley still feels unusual. Even among hydrothermal vents, This place seems extraordinarily active. More vents appear deeper within the basin, their faint glow illuminating the valley walls, and somewhere beyond them, the sonar instruments detect an even larger formation, something massive, resting in the deepest part of the valley floor, something that may reveal the true secret of this hidden ocean world. The submarine continues forward, gliding silently through the glowing valley as the lost world under the Pacific Ocean begins to slowly reveal its ancient mysteries. The submarine moves slowly, gliding deeper into the glowing valley. Outside the observation window, the strange landscape of hydrothermal vents continues to unfold. Dark chimneys rise from cracks in the ocean floor. Some are small, only a few meters tall. Others tower upward like ancient underwater pillars, reaching high into the silent darkness. From their openings, superheated water erupts continuously, carrying minerals from deep within the earth. The water pouring from these vents can reach temperatures of more than 350 degrees Celsius. Yet despite this extreme heat, life thrives here. Creatures gather around the vents, forming one of the most unusual ecosystems on our planet. The submarine lights reveal clusters of pale white tube worms, standing upright like a field of strange flowers. Each worm lives inside a long protective tube with a soft red plume extending from the top. These organisms survive in a way completely different from most life on Earth. Instead of sunlight, their bodies depend on bacteria, tiny microorganisms that convert the chemicals from the vent water into energy, a process known as chemosynthesis. Here, life does not rely on the sun at all. It survives using the chemical energy of the Earth itself. Nearby, large white crabs crawl slowly across the mineral rocks, their bodies covered with fine hair-like structures which host bacteria that help them survive in the harsh environment. Strange shrimp gather close to the vents, some of them nearly blind, their eyes replaced by light-sensitive organs that detect faint heat from the vent water. The submarine drifts quietly above the ecosystem, observing this hidden world that has existed far beyond human sight. For decades, scientists believed that life in the deep ocean could only survive on organic matter falling from the surface, but discoveries like this changed everything. They revealed that life could thrive in complete darkness, powered only by the chemistry of the Earth itself. The valley floor continues to expand beyond the hydrothermal vents. Strange rocky formations rise from the seabed, ancient volcanic structures created millions of years ago. Some appear smooth, others jagged and fractured, like frozen waves of black stone. The submarine lights sweep slowly across the terrain. And suddenly, something unusual appears on the sonar display. A massive shape, resting deeper within the valley basin, larger than any of the vent structures, larger than the surrounding rocks. At first, the formation looks natural, just another part of the ocean floor. But the more the sonar scans it, the stranger it seems. The structure appears almost symmetrical, with long ridges running along its surface, as if shaped by forces different from the surrounding terrain. The submarine pilot reduces speed, guiding the vessel carefully toward the formation. Outside the window, the hydrothermal vents slowly fade behind, their glowing plumes disappearing into darkness. Ahead, The unknown structure begins to take shape in the distant beam of the submarine lights. For a moment, it is difficult to understand what it truly is. A giant rock formation, perhaps, or the remains of some ancient geological process. But something about it feels unusual, almost mysterious. As the submarine moves closer, new signals appear on the sonar instruments. Clusters of movement, living creatures gathered around the structure. Dozens, perhaps hundreds. Some of them glowing faintly, others drifting slowly around the massive formation. Whatever this place is, it seems to support a surprisingly large amount of life, far more than the surrounding valley. The submarine continues forward, approaching the strange formation, and slowly the lights begin to reveal something extraordinary. The surface of the structure is covered with strange organisms, delicate coral-like growths, glowing bacteria, and unusual creatures that appear to form an entire ecosystem around the massive shape. A hidden habitat, deep within the valley, a place that may hold one of the greatest secrets of the deep Pacific Ocean. The submarine slows, hovering quietly above the mysterious structure, while the darkness of the deep ocean waits silently all around. The submarine remains still, hovering quietly above the massive formation resting deep within the valley. Outside the observation window, the darkness of the Pacific feels heavier here, almost ancient. The powerful lights of the submarine spread slowly across the surface of the mysterious structure, revealing more details. Its surface is rough, covered with layers of mineral deposits and delicate living organisms. At first glance, the formation appears to be a massive rock formation, perhaps formed by ancient volcanic activity. But the more the submarine moves around it, the stranger it seems. The structure stretches outward far beyond the reach of the submarine lights. Its surface rises gradually from the valley floor, forming long ridges and curved walls, almost like the ruins of a giant underwater mountain. Small glowing creatures drift slowly around the structure, lanternfish, jelly-like plankton, tiny shrimp, feeding on drifting particles. Life seems to gather here, as if the structure itself is providing shelter in the otherwise empty valley. The submarine moves slowly along the side of the formation, scanning its surface with sonar instruments. The readings reveal something unusual: large hollow spaces inside the rock, massive internal chambers hidden beneath the outer layers. These chambers may have formed long ago, when hot volcanic gases escaped from the seafloor, creating enormous cavities within the rock. Over time, mineral-rich water flowing through the valley may have strengthened the structure, turning it into a giant natural fortress beneath the ocean. As the submarine continues to explore the outer ridge, a sudden movement appears in the distance, something large, gliding slowly through the darkness. The submarine lights shift slightly, revealing the outline of an enormous creature. Long arms, thin and flexible, stretch outward through the water, a giant deep-sea squid. Its pale body reflects the faint light of the submarine, while its long tentacles drift silently through the darkness. For a moment, the creature pauses, studying the strange vessel that has entered its world. Then slowly, it moves away, disappearing once again into the deep ocean night. Encounters like this are extremely rare. Many deep-sea animals remain almost completely unknown to science. Some species have only been seen a handful of times, others perhaps never at all. The submarine continues its careful exploration of the massive structure, moving slowly along its outer edge, and suddenly, another strange feature comes into view. A deep opening in the side of the formation, a dark entrance leading into one of the hollow chambers detected by the sonar. The entrance is enormous, easily large enough for the submarine to enter. Inside, the darkness appears absolute. The pilot slows the vessel, carefully adjusting the submarine's position, because whatever lies inside that chamber has remained hidden for countless centuries. Perhaps the cavern contains nothing more than silent rock walls, or perhaps it hides an entire ecosystem that has never been observed by human eyes. The submarine lights illuminate the entrance one final time, revealing faint, glowing organisms clinging to the rocky edges, living quietly at the threshold of the hidden chamber. Then slowly, the vessel begins to move forward toward the dark opening in the ancient structure, and as the submarine crosses the threshold, it begins to enter a place that may be one of the most mysterious environments in the entire Pacific Ocean, a hidden cavern deep beneath the sea, where the secrets of the lost world may finally begin to reveal themselves. The submarine glides slowly toward the entrance of the massive underwater cavern. Outside the window, the structure appears even larger from this angle. Ancient rock layers curve upward like the walls of a forgotten fortress. Millions of years ago, violent volcanic forces may have shaped this formation, molten rock rising from deep beneath the ocean floor, cooling slowly under the crushing pressure of the deep Pacific. Over time, currents carried minerals through the cracks of the stone, strengthening the structure layer by layer until the giant formation became a permanent part of the valley floor. But something unusual still surrounds this place. The concentration of life here is far greater than anywhere else in the valley. Small fish gather near the rocky walls, tiny glowing shrimp drift through the water, and strange jelly-like organisms pulse softly near the entrance of the cavern. It is almost as if the structure itself is protecting the life around it, creating a calm pocket within the silent ocean. The submarine lights slowly illuminate the cavern entrance again. The opening stretches far into the darkness, like the mouth of a giant underwater tunnel. Inside, no light escapes, only a deep black void waiting silently. The pilot carefully adjusts the submarine thrusters, guiding the vessel forward inch by inch. Because entering a cavern at this depth is not without risk. The walls could narrow suddenly, falling rocks could block the path, and the darkness inside makes navigation difficult. Yet the sonar instruments suggest that the chamber beyond is vast, possibly stretching hundreds of meters within the structure. As the submarine approaches the entrance, new shapes begin to appear along the cavern walls. Soft, white coral growths, clusters of tube worms, and glowing bacteria forming faint blue patterns across the rock. Life has slowly claimed even this hidden place, adapting to the strange conditions inside the underwater cavern. For centuries, perhaps even thousands of years, these organisms have lived quietly in complete isolation, unknown to the world above. The submarine now hovers directly before the entrance, its lights shining into the silent darkness. And somewhere deep within that cavern, the sonar instruments detect another open chamber, even larger than the outer valley. If the readings are correct, this hidden formation may contain an entire ecosystem sealed within the mountain itself, a secret environment hidden beneath the ocean floor, waiting patiently to be discovered. The submarine engines hum softly. Then slowly, very slowly, the vessel begins to move forward, crossing the threshold into the ancient cavern, while the mysteries of the lost world continue to unfold. The submarine moves forward, slowly, carefully, crossing the silent threshold of the massive underwater cavern. Behind the vessel, and the faint glow of the valley begins to disappear. The hydrothermal vents, the coral forests, and the strange ecosystem outside the structure fade gradually into darkness. Now, the submarine enters a world that has likely remained hidden for thousands of years. Inside the cavern, the darkness feels deeper, more complete. The powerful lights mounted on the submarine illuminate the rocky walls, revealing layers of ancient stone, smooth in some places, jagged in others, as if shaped by ancient volcanic forces long ago. The ceiling of the cavern arches high above, far beyond the reach of the submarine lights. Tiny particles drift slowly through the water, like underwater dust. Some are fragments of organic material, others tiny organisms carried by slow currents, moving through the hidden chamber. The submarine glides deeper into the cavern, its lights sweep across the cavern walls, and slowly, something unusual begins to appear. At first, they look like small patches of faint blue light, scattered across the rock surface. Then more appear, clusters of glowing organisms attached to the cavern walls, soft bioluminescent bacteria forming delicate patterns across the stone, like distant constellations spread along the cavern ceiling. This strange glow creates a dim, natural light inside the chamber, a silent illumination produced entirely by living organisms. Life has adapted even to this hidden environment. Slowly, other creatures begin to emerge from the shadows, small translucent shrimp drifting gently through the faint blue glow, tiny fish with nearly transparent bodies moving carefully between the glowing bacteria. Each organism here has evolved to survive in complete darkness, relying on chemical energy instead of sunlight. The deeper the submarine travels into the cavern, the larger the chamber becomes. The sonar instruments begin to display a vast open space ahead, a hidden chamber far larger than the entrance tunnel. The pilot slows the vessel, allowing the submarine to glide quietly forward. And gradually, the cavern opens into an enormous underground basin. The scale of the chamber is astonishing. The cavern stretches outward hundreds of meters in every direction. Massive stone pillars rise from the cavern floor, supporting the ancient ceiling above. Some of these formations are natural columns of rock, while others appear to be mineral deposits that have slowly grown over countless centuries. Strange clusters of organisms cover many of the stone pillars. Soft corals, tube worms, and faintly glowing bacteria forming shimmering patterns throughout the cavern. But something else now appears on the sonar display. Movement, large movement, slow, powerful. Something big is moving through the far side of the underground chamber. For a moment, the creature remains hidden beyond the reach of the submarine lights. Only a faint shadow appears on the instruments. Then slowly, The shadow begins to move closer. A long shape glides silently through the water, its body enormous, far larger than the deep-sea squid seen earlier in the valley. The submarine lights shift toward the movement, and for the first time, the mysterious creature enters the beam of light, a massive, deep-sea jellyfish, its bell nearly 2 meters wide, with long, flowing tentacles drifting behind it. Tiny pulses of bioluminescent light move slowly across its translucent body, creating a faint, glowing aura in the dark water. The creature drifts calmly through the cavern, completely undisturbed by the presence of the submarine. Perhaps no machine has ever entered this chamber before. Perhaps this ancient ecosystem has remained untouched for centuries. The submarine hovers silently within the enormous cavern, its lights revealing only a small portion of the hidden world inside the structure. And somewhere deeper within this underground basin, the sonar instruments detect yet another opening. A deeper tunnel leading further into the mysterious formation. The journey into the lost world beneath the Pacific Ocean is only just beginning. The submarine remains still for a moment, floating quietly within the vast underground chamber. Outside, the observation window, the massive cavern stretches into darkness. Ancient stone pillars rise slowly from the cavern floor, their surfaces covered with strange, glowing organisms. Soft, blue light shimmers across the rock, creating a silent underwater sky inside the cavern. Tiny creatures drift through the faint illumination, almost like distant stars floating slowly in space. The submarine engines hum softly, breaking the silence only slightly. Then gradually, the vessel begins to move again, gliding toward the deeper tunnel detected by the sonar instruments. Ahead, the cavern wall opens into a long passage, a natural corridor of stone, leading further into the hidden formation. The entrance to the tunnel is wide, but the darkness beyond it appears deeper, almost endless. The submarine lights reach forward into the opening, revealing rough stone walls shaped by ancient geological forces. Millions of years ago, this cavern system may have formed when volcanic gases escaped from beneath the seafloor, creating hollow chambers within the mountain. Over time, seawater slowly filled these empty spaces, transforming them into a hidden underwater labyrinth, a secret world buried deep beneath the Pacific Ocean. The submarine moves slowly into the narrow passage. The walls of the tunnel close in slightly, rising high above the vessel. The ceiling disappears into darkness, beyond the reach of the lights. Strange mineral formations hang from the rock, long structures formed by centuries of mineral deposits. Some appear almost like underwater stalactites. Others resemble thin crystal towers, growing slowly in the quiet darkness. Soft glowing bacteria cover many of the surfaces, creating faint patterns of bioluminescent light. For creatures living here, this dim glow may be the only light they have ever known. As the submarine glides deeper into the passage, new forms of life begin to appear. Small white crabs crawl slowly along the rocky walls, their pale shells reflecting the faint blue glow. Tiny shrimp-like creatures swim gently through the water, feeding on microscopic particles drifting through the cavern. But suddenly, something larger appears, clinging to the rock surface near the tunnel ceiling. At first, it is difficult to recognize. Its body blends perfectly with the surrounding stone. Then slowly, One of its arms moves, a deep-sea octopus. Its soft body presses gently against the cavern wall, while its long arms extend outward into the water. Deep-sea octopuses are among the most intelligent creatures in the ocean. Even in this hidden cavern, they have adapted to survive in complete darkness. The octopus watches as the submarine passes slowly beneath it. Then quietly, it releases its grip from the rock surface, gliding gracefully into the dark water, disappearing into the deeper parts of the tunnel. The submarine continues forward, following the passage deeper into the structure, and gradually, the tunnel begins to widen again. The sonar display reveals a new chamber ahead, larger, deeper, and even more mysterious than the one before. Something unusual appears on the instruments, a cluster of heat signals rising slowly from the cavern floor. The submarine pilot reduces speed, guiding the vessel carefully toward the new readings. Because heat this deep beneath the ocean can mean only one thing: hydrothermal activity. But inside a cavern this far beneath the valley, such activity would create something truly extraordinary, a hidden geothermal ecosystem, completely sealed within the mountain. The submarine lights begin to illuminate the chamber ahead, and slowly, a faint orange glow emerges from the darkness. Something powerful is waiting inside the next chamber. Something that may reveal even more secrets about the lost world beneath the Pacific Ocean. The submarine glides forward toward the glowing chamber, while the ancient cavern system continues to unfold deep beneath the silent ocean. The submarine moves slowly toward the faint orange glow, gliding quietly through the widening cavern passage. Behind the vessel, the narrow tunnel fades into darkness, and ahead, a new chamber begins to appear. At first, the glow is soft, barely visible through the black water, but as the submarine approaches, the source of the light becomes clearer. The cavern opens into a vast underground basin, far larger than any chamber discovered so far, and at its center, columns of mineral-rich water rise slowly from the cavern floor. Hydrothermal vents, hidden deep inside the ancient mountain. Superheated water erupts from cracks in the rock, carrying dissolved minerals from deep within the Earth's crust. When the hot water meets the freezing ocean water, the minerals begin to solidify, forming tall chimney structures that rise from the seabed. Some of these vents reach several meters high, dark towers covered with shimmering deposits. The faint orange glow comes from the hot mineral water itself, illuminating the chamber with a dim, fiery light. It is a strange sight, a glowing oasis hidden inside a silent cavern. The submarine slows as it approaches the vent field, because the environment here is extremely delicate and incredibly unusual. The water temperatures around the vents can change dramatically, from freezing cold to boiling hot within only a few meters. Yet even here, life thrives. Clusters of pale tube worms grow around the vents, their long bodies swaying gently in the rising currents. Bright red plumes extend from the tops of their tubes, absorbing chemicals from the vent water. These remarkable creatures do not rely on sunlight for energy. Instead, their bodies host special bacteria, microscopic organisms that convert the vent chemicals into nutrients. This process, known as chemosynthesis, allows entire ecosystems to exist without the sun. Nearby, Strange white crabs crawl slowly across the rocky floor. Some of them gather directly beside the vents, where bacterial growth is strongest. Their movements are slow, patient, perfectly adapted to the extreme environment. The submarine lights sweep gently across the chamber walls, revealing even more life: shrimp, blind fish, and tiny organisms feeding on drifting particles in the warm currents. This hidden geothermal basin is alive, thriving in a place that was once thought to be completely lifeless. But something unusual appears on the sonar display. Beyond the vent field, the cavern floor drops sharply again, creating a deeper depression at the far end of the chamber. The sonar signals indicate a large opening, a vertical shaft leading further down into the mountain. The pilot studies the readings carefully, because a vertical shaft this deep underground could lead to an entirely separate cavern system. Perhaps an even older part of the formation. Perhaps something no submarine has ever explored. The submarine moves slowly toward the edge of the depression. The glow of the hydrothermal vents fades behind, while the darkness ahead grows deeper once again. And as the lights reach the edge of the shaft, the instruments detect something extraordinary: heat signatures, far stronger than those in the chamber above. Whatever lies below may be one of the most active geothermal environments in the entire Pacific Ocean. The submarine pauses, hovering silently above the mysterious shaft, because the journey downward may lead even deeper into the hidden world beneath the Pacific Ocean, a world that has remained undisturbed for millions of years, waiting patiently in the darkness below. The submarine remains still for a few quiet moments, hovering above the edge of the deep shaft. The orange glow from the geothermal vents flickers gently behind the vessel, casting faint reflections across the cavern walls. Tiny particles drift slowly through the warm currents, moving upward from the active vent field below. Life here has adapted to conditions found almost nowhere else on our planet: extreme heat, toxic minerals, and crushing ocean pressure. Yet somehow, entire communities of organisms have evolved to survive in this hostile environment. The submarine lights scan slowly along the rim of the vertical shaft, revealing layers of dark stone. Some sections appear smooth, polished by centuries of mineral flow. Others are jagged, broken by ancient geological forces. The sonar instruments continue mapping the depth below. The shaft descends much farther than expected, deeper than the cavern above it, possibly connecting to another chamber system far beneath the valley. For a moment, the submarine lights capture a faint movement along the rock wall. A long, pale creature slides slowly across the surface, a deep sea eel. Its slender body moves with calm precision, searching the cracks for small prey hidden among the minerals. The eel pauses briefly, sensing the vibrations of the nearby submarine. Then it disappears into a narrow crevice within the rock. Even here, inside a geothermal cavern, predators continue their silent hunt. Above the shaft, small drifting fish circle slowly through the warm water currents. Their bodies glow faintly, tiny bioluminescent organs pulsing gently in the darkness. The submarine pilot studies the sonar display again, because the readings below are becoming more unusual. The deeper layers of the shaft appear wider, almost like a massive funnel leading into a hidden basin. If the data is correct, Another ecosystem may exist far below, protected completely from the outside ocean, a place where life may have evolved in total isolation. The submarine engines adjust slightly, preparing for the descent. And slowly, the vessel begins to lower itself toward the deep geothermal shaft, leaving the glowing chamber behind, while the next hidden layer of the lost world waits silently in the darkness below. The submarine begins its careful descent, lowering slowly into the deep geothermal shaft. Above the vessel, the faint orange glow of the cavern chamber gradually fades. Hydrothermal vents continue to shimmer softly in the distance until eventually their light disappears into the darkness above. Now, the submarine enters a deeper part of the mountain, a place where sunlight has never reached, a place where even the quiet ecosystem of the cavern above no longer exists. The walls of the shaft rise steeply around the vessel, dark volcanic rock stretching upward beyond the reach of the lights. Ancient fractures run across the stone surface, evidence of powerful forces that once shaped this underwater mountain. Millions of years ago, molten rock may have pushed upward through the seafloor, forming the massive structure that now hides this complex cavern system. Over time, seawater slowly carved its way through the rock, expanding cracks, opening tunnels, creating hidden chambers deep beneath the valley floor. The submarine continues downward, its lights revealing thin streams of mineral particles rising slowly through the shaft. Warm geothermal currents flow upward from the depths below, carrying dissolved metals and chemical compounds from the Earth's crust. These rising currents create faint, shimmering patterns in the water, like underwater smoke drifting silently through the shaft. Suddenly, something moves near the rock wall. A long, pale creature slides slowly along the stone surface, its body slender, almost translucent. A deep-sea ghostfish, perfectly adapted to life in darkness. Its sensitive organs detect tiny vibrations in the surrounding water, allowing it to locate prey even without sight. The fish pauses briefly, then glides away into the shadows. The deeper the submarine travels, the warmer the surrounding water becomes. Temperature sensors inside the vessel begin to register a gradual increase. The geothermal activity below this shaft is far stronger than expected. The sonar instruments continue scanning the depths beneath the submarine, and slowly, a massive chamber begins to appear on the display, far below. The shaft opens into another enormous basin, even larger than the geothermal chamber above. The submarine slows, allowing the pilot to study the readings carefully. Because the energy signatures within the chamber are extraordinary, multiple geothermal vents appear to be active across the cavern floor, producing large plumes of mineral-rich water. And around those vents, the sonar detects dense clusters of life, hundreds of organisms gathering together in the warmth of the geothermal currents. A hidden ecosystem far beneath the original cavern system, perhaps one of the deepest geothermal habitats ever discovered. The submarine continues its slow descent, approaching the opening of the massive chamber below. And gradually, the first faint glow begins to appear in the darkness. Not orange, like the vents above, but a strange, soft green light, pulsing gently from the depths of the basin. The pilot adjusts the lights toward the chamber floor, trying to understand the source of the glow. because whatever lies below is unlike anything seen so far inside the mountain. The submarine descends the final meters through the geothermal shaft, entering the enormous basin where the mysterious green light continues to pulse slowly, deep beneath the Pacific Ocean. The submarine descends slowly, slipping quietly through the final meters of the geothermal shaft. Below, the mysterious green glow continues to pulse gently, illuminating the darkness of the hidden basin. Above the vessel, the narrow shaft slowly disappears, becoming only a faint tunnel leading back toward the cavern system. Now, the submarine enters one of the deepest chambers within the ancient mountain, a vast underground basin, sealed from the outside ocean for thousands of years, perhaps even longer. The submarine light sweeps slowly across the chamber floor, and gradually, the source of the green glow begins to appear. Clusters of strange organisms spread across the rocky surface, soft, rounded structures covered in delicate filaments. Each organism emits a faint, green, bioluminescent light, creating a glowing field across the basin floor, like a meadow of living lights. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, scientists have long known that certain bacteria can produce light through chemical reactions, but an ecosystem of this size inside a sealed cavern is extremely unusual. The submarine drifts lower, approaching the glowing basin floor. As the lights move closer, new creatures begin to appear among the luminous organisms. Small shrimp-like animals crawl carefully between the glowing clusters. Their pale bodies reflect the green light of the strange bacteria, feeding on microscopic organisms living within the chemical-rich water nearby. Several blind fish circle slowly through the basin, their eyes reduced almost completely after countless generations living in total darkness. Instead of sight, they rely on sensitive organs along their bodies, detecting vibrations in the surrounding water. The geothermal activity within the basin is stronger than expected. Small vents release warm currents from cracks in the rock. These warm chemical plumes provide nutrients for the glowing bacteria, supporting the entire ecosystem. Without sunlight, without plants, life here survives entirely on chemical energy, a completely different form of biological existence. The submarine hovers quietly above the glowing basin, its lights revealing only a small part of the underground world, because the chamber extends far beyond the visible range. Massive stone walls rise around the basin, forming a natural boundary for the strange ecosystem. But something unusual appears on the sonar display. Movement, far larger than the small creatures already visible. Slow movement, circling somewhere within the outer darkness of the chamber. The pilot adjusts the submarine lights, turning them carefully toward the distant motion. For a moment, nothing appears, only the glowing basin floor and the drifting particles in the water. Then suddenly, a massive shadow passes briefly across the green glow. The outline is enormous, far larger than any fish seen so far inside the cavern system. Long fins, slow, powerful movement. The creature glides silently through the outer darkness, watching the submarine from a distance. Then slowly, the shadow disappears again beyond the reach of the lights. Whatever lives in the outer regions of this basin, it has adapted perfectly to this hidden environment, and the glowing ecosystem below the submarine may be only a small part of the life that exists here. The submarine remains still for a moment, floating quietly above the field of green bioluminescent life, while the deeper mysteries of the lost world beneath the Pacific Ocean continue to reveal themselves. The submarine remains still, hovering quietly above the glowing basin. For a few moments, nothing moves, only the gentle pulse of green bioluminescent light across the cavern floor. The glowing organisms expand slowly across the rocky terrain, forming delicate clusters that stretch far beyond the reach of the submarine lights. Some appear like soft, glowing spheres. Others form thin, branching networks that cling tightly to the mineral surfaces. Scientists believe that bacteria living in extreme environments often develop unusual adaptations. And here, deep inside the mountain, those adaptations have created an ecosystem completely independent from the outside ocean. The geothermal vents below continue to release warm, mineral-rich water, feeding the glowing bacteria, supporting the delicate balance of life inside the basin. Tiny shrimp gather near the warm currents, feeding slowly on microscopic organisms. Small blind fish move carefully through the glowing fields, their bodies reflecting the soft green light, creating faint moving shadows across the cavern walls. But once again, the sonar instruments detect something unusual. The large shadow seen earlier has returned. Moving slowly through the outer darkness of the chamber, the submarine lights shift carefully toward the motion, and gradually, a long shape appears beyond the glowing basin, a massive, deep-sea fish, larger than any creature encountered so far inside the cavern system. Its body moves slowly, powerfully, circling the edge of the geothermal basin. For a moment, the creature approaches the faint green light, studying the strange submarine hovering above the ecosystem. Then, with a single, slow movement of its powerful fins, the shadow turns away, disappearing once again into the dark outer chamber, leaving the glowing basin silent and undisturbed, while the submarine continues its quiet exploration of the hidden world beneath the Pacific Ocean. The submarine remains still, floating quietly above the glowing green basin. Outside the observation window, the strange ecosystem continues its silent activity. Soft, bioluminescent organisms pulse slowly across the cavern floor, their gentle green light moving like waves through the darkness. Tiny shrimp crawl between the glowing clusters, while blind fish circle slowly through the warm currents rising from the geothermal vents. For a moment, everything inside the basin appears calm, peaceful, almost timeless. But far beyond the edge of the glowing field, the outer darkness of the cavern remains alive with movement. The sonar instruments detect the large creature again, moving slowly through the far side of the chamber. The pilot adjusts the submarine lights, turning them carefully toward the distant shadow. At first, only the faint outline of a massive body appears in the darkness. Then gradually, the creature glides closer, entering the faint glow of the green basin. Its body is enormous, larger than most fish ever recorded in the deep ocean. Long fins extend from its powerful frame, moving slowly through the water, propelling the creature with calm, steady motion. Its skin reflects the soft green light of the glowing organisms below, revealing smooth, dark scales that shimmer faintly in the darkness. For a moment, the giant fish circles along the outer edge of the geothermal basin, studying the unfamiliar presence of the submarine. Creatures of the deep ocean rarely encounter machines from the surface world, and yet, this ancient animal appears calm, almost curious. It drifts closer, passing slowly through the beam of the submarine lights. Now its full size becomes visible, a massive deep-sea grouper-like predator, possibly an undiscovered species, perfectly adapted to life within this hidden ecosystem. Its large eyes reflect the faint green glow of the basin, while sensitive organs along its body detect the smallest vibrations in the surrounding water. The creature pauses, hovering silently near the edge of the glowing field, then slowly it lowers itself toward the geothermal vents, where small shrimp and fish gather around the warm mineral currents. In a sudden movement, the giant predator opens its mouth, capturing a cluster of drifting organisms in a single silent motion. Then calmly, the creature rises again, gliding upward into the outer darkness of the cavern, its massive silhouette fading slowly beyond the reach of the submarine lights. The basin becomes quiet again. Only the soft glow of the bioluminescent ecosystem remains. The submarine drifts slowly over the geothermal field, recording data, mapping the hidden basin. Because discoveries like this are extremely rare, entire ecosystems hidden beneath the ocean floor, evolving in complete isolation, unknown to the world above. But the sonar instruments soon reveal something else. At the far side of the basin, the cavern wall opens again. Another passage, wider than the previous tunnels, leading deeper into the ancient mountain. And beyond that passage, the sonar detects something even larger, a vast open space, far greater than the basin itself. The submarine pilot studies the readings carefully, because if the instruments are correct, the next chamber may be the largest hidden environment discovered so far. The submarine turns slowly, aligning itself with the newly discovered passage, while the glowing basin fades quietly behind. And ahead, the darkness of the deeper cavern waits silently, holding the next secrets of the lost world beneath the Pacific Ocean. The submarine drifts slowly toward the newly discovered passage, leaving the glowing geothermal basin quietly behind. The soft green light begins to fade as the vessel approaches the darker region of the cavern. Soon, only the submarine lights illuminate the path ahead. The cavern walls rise higher once again, ancient stone surfaces marked by thousands of years of mineral flow. Tiny glowing organisms still cling to the rock, forming delicate lines of bioluminescent light, like faint stars spread across the cavern walls. For a moment, the submarine pauses near the entrance of the deeper passage. The sonar instruments continue scanning the chamber ahead, and the readings become even more surprising. The next cavern appears enormous, far larger than the geothermal basin. Its ceiling stretches far above the tunnel entrance, forming a massive underground ocean chamber. If the instruments are correct, this hidden space may contain one of the largest ecosystems ever discovered beneath the ocean floor. The submarine engines adjust quietly, preparing to enter the deeper chamber, while the ancient mountain continues to reveal the next layer of the lost world beneath the Pacific Ocean. The submarine moves slowly, leaving the glowing geothermal basin quietly behind. The soft green light that once illuminated the cavern floor begins to fade, into distant darkness. Soon, only the pale beams of the submarine lights guide the vessel forward. The tunnel ahead widens gradually, its ancient stone walls curving outward like the throat of a giant underwater passage. Millions of years ago, this mountain beneath the ocean was shaped by powerful volcanic forces. Molten rock rose upward through cracks in the seafloor, forming enormous chambers deep within the Earth's crust. Over countless centuries, cold seawater seeped into those empty spaces, creating the hidden labyrinth that now stretches beneath the Pacific Ocean. The submarine glides carefully through the widening tunnel. Soft mineral deposits coat the rock walls, forming smooth patterns that shimmer faintly under the vessel's lights. Tiny organisms cling to these mineral surfaces, thin strands of glowing bacteria, emitting faint pulses of pale blue light. Even here, in the darker passages between the chambers, life continues to survive, adapting patiently to the harsh environment of the deep ocean world. The sonar instruments begin to display a vast open space ahead. The readings grow larger with every passing second, indicating a chamber far bigger than anything discovered so far inside the mountain. The pilot slows the vessel, allowing the submarine to drift carefully forward, because entering an unknown cavern system at this depth requires patience. The tunnel opens suddenly, revealing an enormous space beyond the passage. The submarine lights expand across the darkness, but even their powerful beams cannot fully illuminate the chamber ahead. The cavern ceiling stretches far above, disappearing into blackness. Massive stone pillars rise from the chamber floor, their enormous shapes supporting the ancient roof of the hidden cavern. Some pillars appear smooth, others jagged and broken, as if carved by ancient geothermal activity. Small clouds of drifting particles float through the still water, tiny fragments of organic material falling slowly through the underground ocean. The submarine moves cautiously into the center of the massive chamber, and gradually, new forms of life begin to appear. Strange fish circle slowly between the towering stone pillars, their bodies thin, almost transparent, glowing faintly with soft bioluminescent patterns. Tiny shrimp-like creatures drift through the water currents, feeding on microscopic particles floating in the cavern. This hidden chamber appears to support an entire ecosystem far larger than the geothermal basin above. The sonar instruments continue scanning the far edges of the cavern, and suddenly, something extraordinary appears on the display. Movement, multiple signals, far larger than the small creatures already visible, slow, powerful. Something massive is moving slowly through the deeper shadows of the underground chamber. The pilot adjusts the submarine lights toward the distant motion, but the creature remains just beyond the reach of the beams. Only a faint silhouette appears briefly against the dark cavern wall. Then the shadow disappears, gliding silently through the hidden ocean chamber. Whatever lives here, it is perfectly adapted to this ancient underground world. And the enormous cavern stretching beyond the submarine lights may contain far more life than anyone has ever imagined. The submarine remains still, floating quietly within the center of the vast hidden chamber, while the lost world beneath the Pacific Ocean continues to reveal its ancient secrets. The submarine drifts slowly through the center of the enormous chamber. Its lights sweep gently across the towering pillars of ancient stone, For a moment, the cavern appears calm, almost peaceful, but the sonar instruments continue detecting movement far beyond the visible range, large shapes circling slowly through the darkness. Creatures that have likely lived here for countless generations, completely separated from the surface world. This hidden chamber may have remained isolated for thousands, perhaps even millions of years, allowing life inside the cavern to evolve in ways that scientists have never observed in the open ocean. The submarine engines adjust slightly, holding the vessel steady in the silent water, while the instruments continue mapping the enormous space inside the ancient mountain. And slowly, the readings begin to reveal that the chamber ahead may not be the end of this hidden world. Instead, it appears to connect to an even larger cavern system deep beneath the valley floor, a vast underground network of chambers and passages, stretching farther through the mountain than anyone could have imagined. The submarine lights fade gradually as the vessel turns toward the deeper shadows of the cavern, preparing to explore the next hidden passage, while the mysteries of the lost world beneath the Pacific Ocean continue to unfold. The submarine glides slowly through the wide stone passage, leaving the towering pillars of the previous cavern far behind. Ahead, the tunnel begins to open, revealing the outline of another enormous chamber. The sonar instruments continue mapping the space beyond the passage, and the readings confirm what the pilot suspected. The next basin is immense, far larger than any chamber encountered so far inside the ancient mountain. The submarine lights expand across the darkness, illuminating only a small portion of the hidden world ahead. Massive ridges of volcanic rock rise from the cavern floor, their jagged surfaces covered with mineral deposits formed over countless centuries. The cavern ceiling stretches high above, vanishing into darkness beyond the reach of the vessel's lights. It is as if an entire underground ocean exists within the mountain itself, completely separated from the world above. The submarine moves cautiously into the center of the hidden basin. Small clouds of drifting particles float through the water, slowly settling across the uneven terrain of the cavern floor. These particles carry nutrients through the underground ecosystem, feeding the strange organisms that have evolved here in isolation. The sonar display begins to reveal movement. Dozens of signals scattered across the basin. Some move slowly along the rocky ridges. Others drift quietly through the water between the mineral formations. As the submarine lights shift across the chamber, the first creatures begin to appear. Long, translucent fish swim calmly near the cavern floor, their bodies thin and flexible, with faint bioluminescent lines running along their sides. Soft pulses of light move slowly across their skin, creating gentle flashes in the darkness. These strange animals have likely lived inside the cavern system for countless generations, adapting gradually to the hidden environment beneath the Pacific Ocean. But something larger moves in the distance. The sonar signals grow stronger, indicating the presence of massive organisms deeper within the basin. The submarine lights turn slowly toward the outer shadows of the chamber. For a moment, nothing appears, only the jagged ridges of ancient rock rising from the cavern floor. Then suddenly, a large shape emerges from the darkness. A long flowing body moves silently through the water, followed by several trailing arms that extend far behind it, a giant, deep-sea squid. Its enormous mantle reflects the faint glow of the submarine lights, while its long tentacles drift slowly through the cavern currents. The creature glides between the volcanic ridges, its movements calm, almost graceful. For a moment, it pauses near the submarine, studying the unfamiliar machine that has entered its hidden world. Then, with a slow movement of its powerful fins, the giant squid turns away, disappearing once again into the distant shadows of the underground basin. The submarine remains still, floating quietly within the massive cavern, while the sonar instruments continue scanning the unexplored regions of the chamber, and gradually, another surprising discovery appears on the display. At the far side of the basin, the cavern wall drops sharply downward, revealing a deep trench cut into the cavern floor, a narrow, underwater canyon leading even deeper into the mountain. The submarine lights shift toward the new formation, but the darkness within the trench remains impenetrable. Whatever lies below has remained hidden for countless centuries, waiting silently beneath the lost world of the Pacific Ocean. The submarine drifts slowly toward the edge of the newly discovered trench. Its lights sweep carefully across the jagged canyon walls. Ancient layers of volcanic rock rise on either side, their rough surfaces marked by thousands of years of mineral flow. Tiny glowing organisms cling to the canyon walls, forming faint lines of bioluminescent light that stretch deep into the darkness below. The trench appears narrow at first, but the sonar readings suggest that it widens far beneath the basin floor, perhaps leading to another hidden chamber within the ancient mountain. Small fish gather near the upper edges of the canyon, their bodies glowing faintly as they drift through the silent water. Even here, inside the deepest regions of the cavern system, life continues to survive, quietly adapting to the strange conditions of the underground ocean. The submarine slows, hovering carefully above the dark trench, because whatever lies within that canyon may lead even deeper into the vast network of hidden chambers beneath the Pacific Ocean. And the lost world inside the mountain is only beginning to reveal its secrets. The submarine hovers quietly above the dark trench. For a few silent moments, the vessel remains still, allowing the instruments to scan the canyon below. The sonar display reveals steep, rocky walls descending sharply beneath the basin floor. Ancient volcanic layers form the sides of the trench, their rough surfaces carved slowly by geothermal currents over thousands of years. The submarine lights reach only a short distance into the canyon. Beyond that, the darkness remains complete, a silent passage leading deeper into the mountain. The pilot slowly adjusts the submarine thrusters, and gently, the vessel begins its careful descent into the narrow trench. The canyon walls rise on either side of the submarine, tall stone cliffs stretching upward toward the hidden basin above. Small glowing organisms cling to the rock surfaces, forming faint threads of bioluminescent light along the canyon walls. These tiny living lights create a dim pathway through the darkness, guiding the submarine deeper into the ancient canyon. The water here is completely still, protected from ocean currents by the surrounding cavern system. Tiny particles drift slowly through the water column, settling gradually along the canyon floor. As the submarine descends, new life begins to appear along the rocky walls. Strange pale crabs crawl slowly across the mineral surfaces, their long legs moving carefully between the jagged rocks. Clusters of shrimp-like creatures gather near small cracks in the canyon walls, feeding on microscopic organisms that grow around the geothermal minerals. Even in this narrow canyon, life continues to survive, patiently adapting to the deep, underground environment. The submarine continues its steady descent. And gradually, the canyon begins to widen. The sonar instruments detect a larger opening below, a deep basin hidden beneath the trench. As the vessel approaches the canyon floor, the lights reveal something unexpected. Tall mineral towers rise from the rocky ground, their surfaces smooth and layered, formed by centuries of geothermal activity. Some towers appear thin, others massive and irregular, like ancient monuments built by the earth itself. Between these formations, small fish drift slowly through the water, their bodies faintly glowing with delicate patterns of bioluminescent light. The submarine glides carefully between the towering structures, exploring the hidden basin at the base of the canyon. But suddenly, the sonar instruments detect a powerful signal, something large moving quickly through the far side of the trench basin. The pilot turns the submarine lights toward the movement. For a moment, nothing appears. Then suddenly, a long shadow rushes across the canyon floor. A massive, deep-sea predator emerges briefly from the darkness, its body long, muscular, perfectly adapted to hunting in the deep ocean. The creature moves swiftly between the mineral towers, before disappearing once again into the shadows of the trench. Encounters like this are rare because many deep ocean predators prefer to remain hidden, waiting patiently within the darkness for passing prey. The submarine slows again, hovering quietly within the canyon basin, while the sonar instruments continue mapping the deeper regions of the trench. And slowly, another discovery appears on the display. At the far end of the canyon basin, the rock wall opens into yet another passage, a wider tunnel leading deeper beneath the mountain. The submarine lights shift carefully toward the new opening, but the darkness inside remains silent, unchanged, waiting patiently for the next step of the journey through the lost world beneath the Pacific Ocean. The submarine remains still for a few quiet moments, floating gently above the canyon basin. The towering mineral structures rise silently around the vessel, ancient formations built slowly by geothermal forces over countless centuries. Soft, bioluminescent organisms cling to their surfaces, creating faint patterns of pale blue light through the darkness. Small fish drift carefully between the towering formations, their bodies glowing softly as they move through the silent canyon waters. But the sonar instruments continue to scan the deeper passage ahead, and the readings reveal something unexpected. The tunnel beyond the canyon appears to widen dramatically, forming another hidden chamber beneath the trench basin. If the measurements are correct, this cavern may be even larger than the underground basins already explored, a vast, hollow space buried deep inside the ancient mountain. The submarine engines adjust quietly, holding the vessel steady within the canyon basin, while the pilot studies the mysterious passage ahead. Because every new chamber inside this hidden world reveals something extraordinary. And somewhere deeper within the mountain, the largest secret of the lost world beneath the Pacific Ocean may still be waiting. The submarine slowly turns, aligning itself with the dark passage at the far end of the canyon basin. For a moment, the vessel remains still, allowing the sonar instruments to map the space ahead. The readings return gradually, revealing the outline of something extraordinary. The tunnel beyond the canyon widens rapidly, opening into another cavern, but this chamber is unlike the others. Its scale is far greater than anything discovered so far inside the ancient mountain. The submarine begins to move forward, gliding carefully toward the entrance of the enormous cavern. Behind the vessel, the narrow canyon slowly disappears, its towering mineral formations fading into darkness. Ahead, the passage expands, until suddenly, the submarine emerges into a vast, hidden ocean chamber. The lights of the vessel spread across the darkness, but even their powerful beams cannot reach the far walls of the cavern. The chamber stretches outward in every direction, an underground sea buried deep beneath the Pacific Ocean. Massive volcanic ridges rise from the cavern floor, their rough surfaces covered with mineral deposits formed slowly over countless centuries. Between these ridges, wide open valleys spread across the basin, creating a strange and ancient landscape beneath the mountain. Tiny particles drift through the still water, falling slowly toward the cavern floor, like underwater snow moving silently through the hidden world. As the submarine glides deeper into the chamber, life begins to appear. Small fish move quietly between the rocky ridges, their bodies glowing softly with faint bioluminescent lines. Clusters of shrimp-like creatures drift through the water, feeding on microscopic organisms that grow around the mineral surfaces. Even here, so far beneath the ocean floor, life has found a way to survive. But something unusual appears on the sonar display. Large movement, far beyond the visible range of the submarine lights. Multiple signals circling slowly through the distant darkness of the cavern. The pilot turns the lights carefully toward the outer basin, and gradually a massive shadow begins to appear. A long shape glides silently through the underground sea, then another and another. Several enormous creatures move slowly through the hidden chamber, their bodies long and powerful, perfectly adapted to life in this isolated ecosystem. Some resemble giant fish, others move with the flowing arms of deep-sea squid. Creatures that may have lived here for thousands of years, completely separated from the outside ocean. The submarine remains still, floating quietly within the center of the great cavern, observing the silent movement of the enormous animals in the distance. Perhaps this hidden chamber has served as a sanctuary, a protected ecosystem deep inside the mountain, a place where life has evolved differently, isolated from the changing world above. The sonar instruments continue mapping the cavern, and the readings reveal something even more surprising. At the far side of the chamber, a massive ridge rises sharply from the cavern floor. Behind that ridge, the instruments detect yet another open passage, a tunnel leading even deeper into the mountain. The submarine lights turn slowly toward the distant ridge, but the darkness beyond it remains silent, unchanged, waiting patiently for the next stage of the journey through the endless caverns of the lost world beneath the Pacific Ocean. The submarine remains still within the center of the enormous cavern. Its light sweeps slowly across the distant ridges of ancient volcanic rock. For a moment, the underground ocean appears calm, almost timeless. But the sonar instruments continue detecting movement beyond the visible range of the lights. Large creatures circling slowly through the hidden basin, perfectly adapted to life within the mountain. Small, glowing fish drift carefully through the water currents, their faint bioluminescent patterns moving gently through the darkness. Tiny shrimp gather along the rocky surfaces, feeding quietly on microscopic organisms growing around the minerals. This entire ecosystem has likely evolved in complete isolation, protected deep inside the ancient volcanic structure. The submarine engines adjust slightly, holding the vessel steady while the pilot studies the deeper passage beyond the volcanic ridge. Because every new cavern inside this mountain reveals another layer of the hidden world, and somewhere beyond the ridge, the sonar readings suggest an even deeper chamber, perhaps the largest space within the entire cavern network, a silent ocean buried beneath stone, waiting patiently for the next stage of the exploration. The submarine drifts slowly toward the towering volcanic ridge. For a moment, the vessel moves almost silently through the still water of the hidden cavern. Behind it, the vast underground basin fades gradually into darkness. Ahead, the enormous ridge rises from the cavern floor like a giant wall of ancient stone. Its surface is rough, layered with the volcanic rock formed deep within the earth millions of years ago. The submarine lights sweep slowly across the ridge, revealing cracks and mineral veins running through the dark stone. These fractures suggest that powerful geothermal forces once pushed through this mountain, creating the hidden network of caverns and chambers buried beneath the Pacific Ocean. The submarine glides closer, carefully approaching the highest point of the ridge. As it rises slightly above the rocky formation, the sonar instruments begin to reveal something extraordinary. Beyond the ridge, another chamber appears, larger, deeper, and far darker than the basin behind it. The pilot slows the vessel, allowing the submarine to drift carefully forward, because every new chamber inside this mountain reveals another hidden world. The submarine moves slowly over the crest of the ridge, and gradually, the enormous cavern beyond comes into view. The chamber stretches outward, far beyond the reach of the vessel's lights. Massive rock formations rise from the cavern floor, their shapes jagged and uneven, formed by ancient volcanic activity. Some appear like enormous towers, others like broken cliffs rising from the dark seabed. The entire landscape feels ancient, untouched, almost forgotten. Tiny particles drift through the silent water, settling slowly across the rocky terrain. And soon, life begins to appear within the deeper chamber. Strange fish glide quietly between the volcanic formations, their bodies long and nearly transparent. Soft lines of bioluminescent light move gently along their sides, creating faint pulses in the darkness. Clusters of shrimp-like creatures gather along the mineral surfaces, feeding quietly on microscopic organisms growing around the rock. Even here, deep inside the mountain, life continues to thrive, patiently adapting to the extreme conditions of the underground ocean. But suddenly, the sonar instruments detect something larger, much larger, a powerful signal moves slowly through the far side of the cavern. The submarine lights turn carefully toward the distant motion. At first, nothing appears. Then gradually, a massive shadow emerges from the darkness. A long body moves slowly through the water, followed by several extended arms. A giant, deep sea squid, larger than the one seen earlier in the cavern system. Its enormous mantle reflects the pale light of the submarine, while its long tentacles drift silently through the still water. The creature glides between the volcanic towers, moving with calm, graceful motion. For a moment, it pauses near the outer edge of the submarine lights, studying the unfamiliar machine that has entered its hidden world. Then slowly, with a gentle movement of its fins, the giant squid turns, disappearing once again into the distant shadows of the cavern. The submarine remains still, floating quietly above the volcanic ridge, while the sonar instruments continue mapping the enormous chamber beyond. And slowly, another discovery appears on the display. At the deepest edge of the cavern, the rock floor drops sharply into a vast depression, a massive underground basin, even deeper than the chambers above. The submarine lights shift toward the distant drop, but the darkness below remains silent, unchanged, waiting patiently for the next stage of the journey through the lost world beneath the Pacific Ocean. The submarine drifts slowly above the edge of the newly discovered basin. Its lights sweep carefully across the distant rock floor, revealing an ancient landscape formed by volcanic forces deep beneath the Pacific Ocean. The basin stretches outward into the darkness, far beyond the reach of the submarine lights. Strange ridges rise from the cavern floor, their rough surfaces covered with mineral deposits built slowly over thousands of years. Tiny glowing organisms cling to these rocky surfaces, creating faint threads of pale blue light through the dark water. Small fish drift quietly through the basin, their bodies glowing softly as they move between the volcanic formations. This hidden ecosystem may have existed here for countless generations, protected deep inside the ancient mountain. Isolated from the changing ocean above, the submarine engines adjust gently, holding the vessel steady while the instruments continue mapping the basin. And the deeper the sonar scans, the clearer it becomes that the cavern system inside this mountain is far larger than anyone could have imagined. A vast underground world, stretching silently beneath the Pacific Ocean, waiting patiently to reveal its final secrets. The submarine remains still, hovering quietly above the edge of the deepest basin yet discovered inside the ancient mountain. For a few silent moments, nothing moves except the driftwood particles suspended in the dark water. Behind the vessel, the towering volcanic ridge fades slowly into shadow. Ahead, the cavern floor falls away into a vast depression, a hidden basin buried deeper than any chamber explored so far. The pilot studies the sonar display carefully, because the readings are unlike anything seen before. The basin below is immense. Its walls descend in long, steep curves, forming a giant bowl of ancient volcanic stone. At the very center, the instruments detect a dense cluster of geothermal activity, multiple heat signatures rising through the water from deep fractures in the rock, and around those signals there is movement, large movement, slow, circling, watching. The submarine engines hum softly, Then gently, very gently, the vessel begins its descent. The lights of the submarine stretch downward across the basin wall, revealing layers of black volcanic rock. Some surfaces appear smooth, polished over time by mineral-rich currents. Others are jagged, split by fractures that run deep into the ancient stone. Tiny glowing organisms cling to these surfaces, soft lines of pale blue bioluminescence, marking the descent path through the darkness. As the submarine moves lower, the hidden basin seems to grow larger. The ceiling of the cavern disappears completely, lost somewhere above in the blackness. And now, the vessel is surrounded only by deep water, ancient stone, and silence. The sonar instruments continue mapping the chamber floor below. The central region of the basin appears uneven, broken ridges, scattered mineral towers, and clusters of geothermal vents spread across the rocky terrain. Warm currents rise slowly through the basin, carrying dissolved minerals into the surrounding water. These chemical plumes create a shimmering haze that moves gently through the submarine lights, like underwater smoke, drifting upward from the hidden heart of the mountain. Life begins to appear along the lower basin wall. Small blind fish, their bodies pale and nearly transparent, move quietly through the warm currents. Tiny shrimp-like creatures gather near cracks in the rock, feeding on bacteria growing around the mineral deposits. Even here, at the deepest point of the lost world, life continues to survive, patiently, silently, adapting to an environment no human eye was ever meant to see. But suddenly, the sonar signals sharpen, three large shapes moving slowly near the geothermal field at the center of the basin. The pilot turns the submarine lights toward the distant motion. At first, only shadows appear, dark forms gliding beyond the reach of the beams. Then one of them moves closer. A massive body passes slowly through the outer light. Long fins, powerful tail, smooth dark skin reflecting the faint glow of the geothermal plumes below. Not a squid. Not like the creatures seen before. This animal moves like a giant deep-sea predator, calm, ancient, perfectly adapted to the hidden basin. For a moment, it circles the outer edge of the geothermal field. Then another shape appears behind it, and another. Three enormous predators, moving quietly through the deepest chamber, as if guarding the center of the lost world. The submarine remains still, allowing the animals to pass without disturbance. And as the creatures drift away into the darkness, the central basin floor comes more clearly into view. There, between the geothermal vents, stands a formation unlike any other inside the cavern network, a ring of mineral towers arranged in a wide circle, surrounding a dark opening in the center of the basin floor. The sonar instruments lock onto the formation. The opening is vertical, a shaft, descending even deeper beneath the chamber. For a moment, the pilot says nothing. Because if the readings are correct, then the basin below is not the end of this hidden world. It is only another doorway leading farther down into the ancient mountain. The submarine drifts slowly toward the ring of mineral towers, while the geothermal light pulses softly through the dark water. And the silent predators circle once more at the edge of the basin, as if watching the next stage of the descent into the deepest secrets of the lost world beneath the Pacific Ocean, still deeper, still quieter, still unknown. The submarine drifts slowly toward the center of the hidden basin. Ahead, the strange circle of mineral towers rises quietly from the dark seabed. Each formation stands tall like an ancient monument, built slowly by geothermal forces over thousands of years. Soft mineral layers coat the towers, their surfaces smooth in some places, jagged in others, formed by the endless flow of mineral-rich water rising from deep fractures in the rock. The submarine lights move carefully across the ring of towering structures, revealing delicate colonies of glowing bacteria clinging to the mineral surfaces. Tiny pulses of pale green light spread slowly across the towers, like a quiet constellation shining within the basin. For a moment, the entire formation appears almost unnatural, a perfect circle of rising pillars surrounding the dark opening at the center of the basin floor. The pilot studies the sonar display carefully, because the readings from the opening are extraordinary. The vertical shaft beneath the towers descends far deeper than expected, deeper than the basin itself, deeper than any chamber explored so far inside the ancient mountain. The submarine glides closer, approaching the center of the mineral circle. Warm geothermal currents rise gently through the water, creating shimmering waves within the submarine lights. These chemical plumes carry dissolved minerals from deep within the earth, feeding the strange ecosystem that has formed around the towers. Small blind fish circle slowly through the rising currents, their pale bodies glowing faintly with delicate lines of bioluminescent light. Clusters of shrimp-like creatures crawl carefully across the mineral surfaces, feeding on microscopic organisms growing around the vents. Even here, at the deepest level of the cavern system, life continues to survive, patiently adapting to this hidden geothermal world. The submarine moves slowly over the ring of towers, and now, the dark opening at the center comes into full view. It is enormous, far wider than the shaft discovered in the basin above. The edges of the opening are lined with smooth rock, polished slowly by centuries of geothermal flow. The sonar instruments send pulses of sound down into the shaft. The signals descend deeper and deeper before returning to the vessel, and the results are astonishing. The shaft continues far below the basin, descending through the mountain like a vertical canyon. At the bottom, the instruments detect another large chamber, perhaps the deepest space within the entire cavern network. But something else appears on the sonar display. Movement, slow, massive, circling somewhere within the darkness of the shaft below. The pilot turns the submarine lights toward the opening, but the beams cannot reach far enough into the depths. Only darkness remains. Then suddenly, a pale shape moves upward from within the shaft. Long flowing arms stretch outward through the water. A ghostly, deep-sea octopus, its body almost transparent, glowing faintly with soft pulses of bioluminescent light. The creature rises slowly past the edge of the mineral towers, studying the strange vessel hovering above the shaft. For a moment, it floats silently within the beam of the submarine lights. Then gently, it turns, descending once again into the darkness below the basin, disappearing completely within the vertical canyon. The submarine remains still, hovering quietly above the opening, because the sonar readings are now unmistakable. The cavern system inside the mountain does not end here. The shaft below leads deeper still to another hidden chamber, buried beneath the lost world of the Pacific Ocean. The submarine engines adjust softly, then slowly, very slowly. The vessel begins to lower itself toward the dark opening, leaving the circle of mineral towers behind, while the silent shaft descends endlessly into the unknown. The submarine lowers slowly towards a dark shaft, passing carefully between the towering mineral pillars. The glowing bacteria spread across the towers continue to pulse softly, casting faint green light through the quiet basin. For a moment, the entire circle of towers looks almost alive, as if the formation itself has grown slowly around the ancient opening. The submarine pauses briefly above the center of the shaft, allowing the sonar instruments to scan the deeper regions below. The signals descend through the vertical passage, returning slowly from far beneath the basin floor, and the readings confirm what the pilot suspected. The cavern system continues even deeper, far below the hidden basin. A vast chamber waits somewhere beneath the shaft, perhaps the deepest space inside the entire mountain. The submarine engines adjust gently, holding the vessel steady while the final readings appear on the display. Then, slowly, the descent begins. The submarine lowers carefully into the dark, vertical canyon, leaving the silent circle of mineral towers above, while the shaft leads deeper still into the unknown heart of the lost world beneath the Pacific Ocean. The submarine descends slowly, leaving the silent ring of mineral towers far above in the basin. The faint green glow of the geothermal field gradually fades until only darkness remains around the vessel. The vertical shaft stretches downward like a narrow canyon cut deep into the mountain. Its rocky walls rise on either side of the submarine. Dark volcanic stone layered with mineral veins formed by centuries of geothermal activity. The submarine light slides slowly across the ancient rock, revealing long fractures running deep into the cavern walls. Warm currents rise gently through the shaft, carrying mineral particles from the depths below. These currents create soft, shimmering patterns in the water, like slow-moving smoke drifting upward through the darkness. For a moment, the descent continues in complete silence. No large creatures appear. Only tiny organisms cling to the rock surfaces, small colonies of glowing bacteria, thin lines of bioluminescent light marking the walls of the vertical canyon. Life here is rare, but not absent. Tiny shrimp-like animals crawl slowly along the mineral cracks, feeding on microscopic bacteria that grow around the geothermal minerals. Even at this depth, the hidden ecosystem continues to survive, patiently adapting to the extreme environment of the underground ocean. The submarine continues its slow descent, and gradually, the sonar instruments begin to reveal the chamber below. The shaft widens slightly, opening into a vast space beneath the mountain. The pilot studies the sonar display carefully, because the readings are extraordinary. The chamber below is enormous, larger than any basin discovered so far inside the cavern network. But something else appears on the instruments. Strong geothermal signals, much stronger than the vents above. Multiple heat sources rise from the cavern floor, creating a powerful chemical environment deep within the mountain. As the submarine approaches the opening, a faint glow begins to appear through the darkness. Not green, not blue, but a deep orange light. The light pulses slowly through the water, reflecting softly against the walls of the descending shaft. The submarine lowers into the chamber, and now the source of the glow comes into view. Dozens of hydrothermal vents rise from the cavern floor, tall mineral chimneys releasing clouds of superheated water into the dark basin. The orange glow comes from the hot minerals flowing through the vents, illuminating the chamber with a dim volcanic light. Around the vents, life thrives. Pale tube worms grow in dense clusters, their red plumes swaying gently in the rising currents. White crabs crawl slowly across the mineral towers, feeding on bacteria that grow around the vents. Strange blind fish circle through the warm water, their bodies thin and almost transparent, adapted perfectly to the hidden geothermal world. But the sonar instruments detect something larger, far larger. A massive signal moves slowly through the far side of the chamber. The submarine lights shift carefully toward the distant shadow. For a moment, nothing appears. Only the glowing vents and drifting clouds of mineral particles. Then suddenly, a giant shape moves through the light. A long, powerful body glides silently between the geothermal towers, its skin dark, reflecting the orange glow of the vents below. A massive, deep-sea predator, larger than any creature seen so far inside the cavern system. The animal circles slowly around the geothermal field, watching the strange machine hovering above the vents. Then calmly, it turns away, disappearing once again into the outer darkness of the hidden chamber. The submarine remains still, floating quietly within the glowing basin, while the geothermal vents continue their endless flow, and the sonar instruments reveal one final discovery. At the far edge of the chamber, the cavern wall rises sharply upward, forming another tunnel leading deeper into the mountain. A passage that may lead to the oldest part of the entire cavern network. The submarine lights turn slowly toward the distant opening, while the glowing vents fade behind, and the silent journey through the lost world beneath the Pacific Ocean continues, deeper, quieter, and more mysterious than ever before. The submarine drifts slowly away from the glowing geothermal basin. Behind the vessel, the tall mineral chimneys continue releasing clouds of warm mineral water, their faint orange glow slowly fading into the distance. Ahead, the cavern wall rises steeply into darkness, forming a narrow opening between two towering ridges of ancient volcanic stone. This is the passage detected earlier by the sonar instruments, a tunnel leading deeper into the mountain, perhaps toward the oldest region of the entire cavern network. For a moment, the submarine remains still, hovering quietly within the silent basin. The pilot studies the instruments carefully, because tunnels like this can sometimes narrow unexpectedly or collapse after centuries of geological pressure. But the sonar readings remain stable. The passage continues far beyond the entrance, descending gently through the ancient rock. The submarine engines hum softly, then slowly, very slowly, the vessel begins to move forward, gliding toward the dark opening. The lights of the submarine stretch across the stone walls, revealing thick layers of volcanic rock formed deep within the earth millions of years ago. These rocks once flowed as molten lava before cooling slowly beneath the ocean floor. Over time, Geothermal forces fractured the mountain, creating tunnels and chambers through the hardened stone. And now, the submarine travels quietly through one of those ancient pathways. The tunnel narrows slightly as the vessel moves deeper. Its walls rise close to the submarine hull, dark stone surfaces marked by long mineral veins that shimmer faintly under the lights. Tiny organisms cling to the rock, thin colonies of glowing bacteria spreading soft lines of pale blue light across the cavern walls. Even in this narrow tunnel, life continues to survive, feeding on the chemical energy released from the surrounding rock. The submarine glides slowly through the passage, and gradually, the tunnel begins to widen again. The sonar instruments start detecting a large open space ahead, another chamber, but this one appears different. The readings show large, irregular formations rising from the cavern floor, taller than any mineral towers seen before. The submarine moves forward toward the opening, and soon, the new cavern begins to appear in the beam of the lights. Massive stone structures rise from the ground, their shapes uneven and ancient. Some resemble broken cliffs, others enormous pillars stretching upward into the darkness above. The entire chamber feels older than any space explored so far, almost as if this region formed long before the upper caverns of the mountain. Tiny particles drift slowly through the water, settling across the rough volcanic terrain. And now, life begins to appear within the chamber. Strange deep-sea fish move quietly between the towering rocks, their bodies pale and almost transparent. Soft pulses of bioluminescent light move slowly along their sides, creating faint glows in the darkness. Clusters of shrimp-like animals crawl carefully across the rocky surfaces, feeding on bacteria growing around the minerals. The ecosystem here appears small but stable, perfectly adapted to the ancient cavern environment. But suddenly, the sonar instruments detect something larger, a powerful signal moving slowly through the far side of the chamber. The submarine lights turn carefully toward the distant shadow. For a moment, nothing appears, only the towering rock formations and drifting mineral particles. Then slowly, a massive shape moves through the darkness. A long body glides between the ancient cliffs, larger than most creatures seen so far inside the cavern system. The animal moves slowly, calmly, perfectly at home within the hidden chamber. Its dark body reflects the faint glow of the submarine lights, before vanishing once again into the deeper shadows of the cavern. The submarine remains still, floating quietly within the ancient passage chamber, while the sonar instruments continue mapping the unexplored depths ahead, and gradually, another discovery appears on the display. At the far edge of the cavern floor, a wide fracture cuts deep into the stone, a massive crack running through the mountain. The fracture slopes downward, forming a new tunnel leading deeper beneath the hidden world. The submarine lights shift toward the dark opening, while the silent cavern waits patiently for the next step of the journey through the lost world beneath the Pacific Ocean. Still deeper, still older, still unknown. The submarine remains still, hovering quietly inside the ancient cavern. For a few silent moments, nothing moves except the slow drift of tiny mineral particles through the dark water. Ahead, The massive fracture in the cavern floor descends deeper into the mountain, a jagged opening cut through layers of volcanic stone formed long ago by powerful tectonic pressure beneath the Pacific Ocean. The sonar instruments continue scanning the deep fracture, mapping the tunnel that slopes downward through the rock. The readings show a long passage, one that stretches far beyond the visible reach of the submarine lights. The pilot studies the instruments carefully, because fractures like this are often unstable. Their walls can collapse suddenly, sealing tunnels that once connected the deeper chambers of the mountain. But the readings remain stable. The tunnel appears wide enough for the submarine to pass safely. The engines hum softly. Then slowly, very slowly, the vessel begins to descend, gliding gently into the fractured tunnel. The cavern above fades behind the submarine, its towering rock formations disappearing into darkness. Now, the vessel travels deeper through a narrow passage between jagged stone walls. The rocks here look older, darker, their surfaces rough with sharp edges formed by ancient volcanic pressure. Long mineral veins run through the stone, shimmering faintly under the submarine lights. Some veins glow softly, thin lines of bioluminescent bacteria spreading across the cracks in the rock. Even inside this fractured tunnel, life continues to survive, feeding on chemical energy released from the surrounding stone. Small shrimp-like creatures crawl slowly along the rocky surfaces, while tiny blind fish drift quietly through the narrow currents of the tunnel. The submarine continues its careful descent. The tunnel slopes downward for several minutes before beginning to widen. The sonar instruments detect a large opening ahead, another chamber. But this one appears very different from the caverns above. The readings show a wide, uneven floor, covered with scattered ridges and deep fissures, as if the rock below has been broken apart by powerful geothermal forces. The submarine glides forward toward the opening, and gradually, the new cavern begins to appear in the beam of the lights. The chamber is vast, but strangely quiet. No glowing vents, no tall mineral towers, only dark, fractured terrain stretching across the cavern floor. Huge blocks of stone lie scattered across the basin, some the size of small mountains, others split apart by deep cracks running through the rock. This region may be one of the oldest parts of the entire cavern system, formed long before the upper chambers of the mountain. Tiny particles drift slowly through the still water, settling across the broken terrain. And soon, life begins to appear again. Strange, pale fish move carefully between the scattered rock formations, their bodies thin, almost transparent, with faint glowing organs along their sides. Clusters of shrimp crawl slowly through the cracks in the stone, feeding on bacteria that grow around the minerals. The ecosystem here is sparse but resilient, perfectly adapted to the harsh conditions of the fractured cavern. But suddenly, the sonar instruments detect something unusual. A powerful signal moves slowly beneath the cavern floor, deeper than the visible terrain. Something massive is moving inside the rock layers below the chamber. The pilot turns the submarine lights toward the distant fissure. For a moment, nothing appears. Then, slowly, a ripple moves through the sediment between the rocks. A long shadow slides silently through the dark fissure in the cavern floor. A creature, moving through tunnels beneath the chamber itself. The shape disappears quickly, leaving only drifting sediment in the water. Whatever lies below has adapted to move through the fractured rock of the mountain. The submarine remains still, floating quietly above the broken terrain, while the sonar instruments continue mapping the deep fissures within the cavern floor. And gradually, another discovery appears on the display. At the far edge of the fractured basin, a massive vertical wall rises from the ground, and within that wall, another opening, a dark tunnel leading even deeper into the ancient mountain. The submarine lights shift slowly toward the silent passage, while the broken cavern fades quietly behind, and the journey through the lost world beneath the Pacific Ocean continues. Deeper, older, and more mysterious with every passing moment. The submarine drifts slowly across the fractured basin behind the vessel. The broken terrain of scattered volcanic rock fades quietly into darkness. Ahead, the massive vertical wall rises from the cavern floor, a towering barrier of ancient stone, its dark surface stretching upward far beyond the reach of the submarine lights. The rock here appears older than the formations above. Thick layers of hardened volcanic stone compressed together over millions of years. Long cracks run across the surface, their edges sharp and uneven, evidence of powerful tectonic forces that once shook the mountain beneath the ocean. The submarine lights move slowly across the towering wall, revealing deep fissures and mineral veins spread across the rock. Some of the veins glow faintly, thin colonies of bioluminescent bacteria living quietly within the cracks. Even here, along the vertical face of the cavern wall, life continues to survive, adapting patiently to the extreme conditions of the underground ocean. Small fish drift carefully through the water, their pale bodies reflecting the faint light of the submarine beams. Clusters of tiny shrimp crawl slowly along the stone surface, feeding on bacteria growing around the minerals. The ecosystem here is fragile, but persistent, perfectly adapted to the deep cavern environment. The submarine glides closer to the towering wall, and gradually, the dark opening within the stone comes into view. A tunnel cut deep into the vertical rock, its edges smooth as if carved slowly by centuries of geothermal flow. The sonar instruments scan the tunnel carefully. The passage appears wide, descending slightly through the rock layers of the mountain, perhaps connecting to another cavern system far beneath the fractured basin. The pilot studies the display, because tunnels like this often lead to unstable regions of the mountain, but the sonar readings remain steady. The passage continues for several hundred meters before widening again. The submarine engines hum softly, then slowly. The vessel begins to move, entering the tunnel within the ancient wall. The fractured basin fades behind the submarine, replaced by narrow stone walls on either side. The tunnel feels older, its rock surfaces darker, more heavily compressed by the weight of the mountain above. Thin mineral streams run through the stone, carrying faint chemical traces through the water. These chemical flows feed the microscopic life that survives in the deep cavern network. The submarine moves deeper through the passage, and gradually, the tunnel begins to widen. The sonar instruments detect another open space ahead, a chamber, but this one appears unusual. The floor of the cavern is not solid rock. Instead, the instruments reveal a massive field of soft sediment covering the basin, Layers of fine mineral dust have settled here for thousands of years, creating a quiet, ancient landscape beneath the mountain. The submarine glides forward into the new chamber. Its lights illuminate the strange sediment plains. Soft clouds of particles rise gently as the submarine passes above. Small creatures move quietly through the dust-covered terrain. Strange, worm-like animals burrow slowly through the soft sediment, while pale fish drift silently above the basin floor. Life here has adapted to survive in stillness, feeding on microscopic organisms that settle slowly through the cavern water. But suddenly, the sonar instruments detect something unusual. Movement deep beneath the sediment, a large shape shifting slowly under the basin floor. The pilot turns the submarine lights toward the distant region. For a moment, nothing appears. Only the smooth sediment plains stretching across the cavern. Then slowly, the ground itself begins to move. A ripple passes through the soft sediment as something massive slides quietly beneath the surface. A creature burrowing through the basin floor, using hidden tunnels beneath the ancient sediment. The shadow disappears again beneath the dust, leaving only drifting particles in the water. The submarine remains still, floating quietly above the silent basin, while the sonar instruments continue scanning the deeper layers of the cavern, and gradually, another discovery appears on the display. At the far edge of the sediment plains, a deep circular depression sinks into the cavern floor. A massive, crater-like formation leading downward into another hidden passage beneath the mountain. The submarine lights turn slowly toward the dark depression, while the silent chamber waits patiently for the next stage of the journey through the lost world beneath the Pacific Ocean, deeper, quieter, and older than ever before. The submarine drifts slowly toward the dark depression at the edge of the sediment basin. Behind the vessel, the quiet plains of mineral dust stretch across the cavern floor, their soft surface disturbed only by the gentle currents created by the submarine's movement. Ahead, the circular crater sinks deep into the rock, its edges smooth and strangely symmetrical, as if the formation was carved slowly by ancient geothermal forces long before the upper caverns formed. The submarine lights sweep across the rim of the crater, revealing layers of compacted sediment built over countless centuries. Fine mineral dust slides slowly down the inner slopes, falling gently into the deeper darkness of the formation. For a moment, the vessel remains still, hovering quietly above the rim. The sonar instruments scan the crater carefully, sending pulses of sound deep into the depression. The signals descend, farther than expected, before finally returning to the submarine. And the readings are remarkable. The crater is not simply a shallow depression, it is a vertical funnel cut deep into the cavern floor, a passage leading even deeper into the mountain. The pilot studies the sonar display closely, because formations like this often connect to unstable regions beneath the rock layers. But the tunnel below appears stable, wide enough for the submarine to pass. The engines hum softly, then slowly, very slowly, the vessel begins to descend into the crater. The rim of the basin rises above the submarine until it disappears into darkness. Now, the submarine moves quietly through the circular passage beneath the sediment plains, The rock walls around the funnel are smooth, polished slowly by centuries of geothermal water flow. Thin mineral streams run through the stone, creating delicate patterns that shimmer faintly under the submarine lights. Small organisms cling to the walls, soft colonies of glowing bacteria spread across the rock. Even here, deep beneath the sediment basin, life continues to survive, feeding on the chemical energy released from the surrounding minerals. Tiny, shrimp-like creatures crawl carefully through narrow cracks, while small blind fish drift slowly through the quiet tunnel. The submarine continues its gentle descent, and gradually, the circular passage begins to widen. The sonar instruments detect another chamber ahead, but this one appears different from all the others. The floor of the cavern is uneven, covered with tall ridges and scattered mineral towers. Some of the towers emit faint heat signals, suggesting the presence of geothermal activity deep within the rock. The submarine glides forward into the new chamber, and soon, a faint glow begins to appear in the darkness. Soft blue light pulses gently between the mineral formations. The source becomes clear as the vessel moves closer. Large colonies of bioluminescent bacteria cover the rocky ridges, spreading across the cavern floor like a glowing landscape hidden deep beneath the mountain. The chamber looks almost like a field of stars, scattered across the dark stone, creating a quiet ocean sky within the cavern. Small creatures move carefully between the glowing formations. Strange fish with translucent bodies, tiny shrimp feeding on microscopic life, and delicate worm-like animals burrowing slowly through the mineral dust. This ecosystem appears far richer than the basins above. Perhaps the geothermal energy flowing through the rock has created the perfect conditions for life to grow, but suddenly, the sonar instruments detect something unusual. A massive signal moving slowly beneath the glowing ridges. The pilot turns the submarine lights toward the distant motion. For a moment, only the glowing bacteria illuminate the chamber floor. Then slowly, a huge shape emerges from behind one of the mineral towers, a long body gliding silently through the glowing field, its dark skin reflecting the blue light of the cavern floor. Another ancient predator of the hidden world, moving calmly through the silent ecosystem. The creature circles once around the glowing ridges, then disappears again into the outer darkness of the chamber. The submarine remains still, floating quietly above the bioluminescent landscape, while the sonar instruments continue mapping the deeper edges of the cavern. And slowly, another discovery appears on the display. At the far side of the glowing field, a narrow canyon cuts deep into the cavern floor, a winding passage leading deeper beneath the mountain. The submarine lights turn slowly toward the distant canyon, while the glowing chamber fades quietly behind. And the silent exploration of the lost world beneath the Pacific Ocean continues, deeper, older, and more mysterious than ever before. The submarine drifts slowly away from the glowing basin. Behind the vessel, the quiet landscape of bioluminescent bacteria fades gently into darkness. Ahead, the narrow canyon cuts deep into the cavern floor, a winding passage between tall walls of ancient volcanic stone. The submarine lights reach carefully into the opening, revealing rough rock surfaces layered with mineral deposits formed slowly over thousands of years. The canyon slopes downward, its jagged edges carved by ancient geothermal currents that once flowed through the mountain. The pilot studies the sonar display, because passages like this often twist unpredictably through the rock layers. But the instruments show a clear path. The tunnel continues for several hundred meters before widening again into another hidden space. The submarine engines hum softly, then slowly, very slowly, the vessel begins to descend into the winding canyon. The glowing chamber behind the submarine disappears completely, replaced by towering rock walls rising on either side. The canyon narrows slightly, creating a quiet corridor through the ancient mountain. Thin mineral streams run across the stone, their surfaces shimmering faintly in the submarine lights. Small colonies of glowing bacteria cling to the canyon walls, creating faint blue threads that stretch along the rock. Even here, inside the twisting canyon, life continues to survive, feeding on the chemical energy released from the mineral veins. Tiny, shrimp-like animals crawl slowly through the narrow cracks, while delicate worm-like creatures burrow quietly into the softer rock layers. The submarine glides deeper through the canyon, and gradually, the passage begins to widen. The sonar instruments detect another chamber ahead, but this one appears strangely irregular. The cavern floor is broken into deep ridges and scattered stone formations. Some formations rise like tall spires, others lie collapsed across the basin floor, as if the cavern itself once shifted violently beneath the mountain. The submarine moves forward into the fractured chamber. Soft clouds of sediment rise slowly as the vessel passes above the uneven terrain. Small fish drift carefully between the broken rocks, their bodies pale and nearly transparent, faint pulses of bioluminescent light glowing softly along their sides. Clusters of shrimp gather around mineral cracks in the stone, feeding on microscopic bacteria growing along the surfaces. The ecosystem here appears delicate but stable, perfectly adapted to the deep cavern environment. But suddenly, the sonar instruments detect something unusual. A powerful signal appears ahead, larger than most creatures seen within the cavern system. The submarine lights turn carefully toward the distant movement. At first, only shadows appear. Then slowly, a massive shape glides between the rocky spires, a long creature with a broad body and sweeping fins, moving calmly through the fractured basin. Its dark skin reflects the faint glow of the bioluminescent bacteria spread across the rocks. For a moment, the creature circles slowly around the outer edge of the chamber, studying the unfamiliar submarine hovering above the terrain. Then quietly, it turns away, disappearing once again into the deeper shadows beyond the rock formations. The submarine remains still, floating silently within the fractured cavern, while the sonar instruments continue mapping the unexplored edges of the chamber, and gradually, another discovery appears on the display. At the far side of the broken basin, a steep passage drops sharply between two towering cliffs of volcanic stone, a deep corridor leading farther down into the mountain. The submarine light shifts slowly toward the dark corridor, while the fractured chamber fades quietly behind, and the silent exploration of the lost world beneath the Pacific Ocean continues, deeper, older, and more mysterious with every passing moment. The submarine drifts slowly toward the steep corridor between the towering cliffs. Behind the vessel, The fractured basin with its scattered rock spires fades gradually into darkness. Ahead, the narrow descent cuts deep into the mountain, a silent passage carved through ancient volcanic stone. The submarine lights reach carefully into the corridor, revealing massive walls of dark basalt rock, layered and compressed by millions of years of geological pressure. Long fractures run across the canyon walls, their edges sharp and uneven. Thin mineral veins glow faintly within the cracks, tiny colonies of bioluminescent bacteria living quietly along the stone. Even in this deep corridor, life continues to survive, feeding on chemical energy released from the minerals hidden within the rock. The pilot studies the sonar display carefully, because passages like this often lead to unstable regions beneath the mountain, but the readings remain steady. The corridor descends gradually for several hundred meters, before opening once again into a wider chamber. The submarine engines hum softly, then slowly, very slowly. The vessel begins its descent, gliding quietly between the towering cliffs. The walls of the corridor rise high above the submarine, their dark surfaces reflecting the faint glow of the vessel's lights. Tiny shrimp-like creatures crawl slowly along the rock, while delicate worms burrow quietly into the mineral layers. Small blind fish drift carefully through the still water, their bodies pale and almost transparent. Soft pulses of bioluminescent light glow gently along their sides. The ecosystem here is sparse but persistent, perfectly adapted to the harsh environment of the deep cavern network. The submarine continues its gentle descent, and gradually, the corridor begins to widen. The sonar instruments detect a large chamber ahead, but this one appears unusually smooth. The floor of the cavern is covered with dark stone, polished by centuries of geothermal water flow. Wide ridges curve gently across the basin floor, creating a landscape unlike any chamber seen before. The submarine glides forward into the new cavern. Soft clouds of sediment rise slowly as the vessel passes above the smooth terrain. Tiny organisms drift through the water, feeding on microscopic life that settles slowly across the stone. But suddenly, the sonar instruments detect movement, large movement, far beneath the cavern floor. The signal moves slowly through the rock layers below the basin. The pilot turns the submarine lights toward a deep crack running across the stone surface. For a moment, nothing appears, only the quiet cavern floor. Then suddenly, the rock surface shifts. A ripple passes through the sediment and a massive shadow slides silently beneath the fractured stone. A creature moving through tunnels deep within the mountain itself. The shadow disappears quickly, leaving only drifting particles in the water. The submarine remains still, floating quietly above the smooth basin floor, while the sonar instruments continue scanning the hidden layers beneath the cavern. And slowly, another discovery appears on the display. At the far end of the chamber, a massive ridge rises sharply from the cavern floor. And beyond that ridge, the instruments detect something extraordinary, a vast open space, larger than any chamber encountered so far. Perhaps the deepest and oldest cavern within the entire mountain. The submarine lights turn slowly toward the distant ridge, while the quiet chamber fades gently behind, and the long exploration of the lost world beneath the Pacific Ocean continues. Deeper, older, and more mysterious with every passing moment. The submarine drifts slowly toward the distant volcanic ridge. Behind the vessel, the smooth chamber floor and silent corridor fade gently into darkness. Ahead, the ridge rises sharply from the cavern basin, towering wall of ancient volcanic stone, formed long before the upper caverns of the mountain existed. The submarine lights slide slowly across the rough rock surface, revealing thick layers of basalt compressed by millions of years beneath the Pacific Ocean. Long mineral fractures spread across the ridge, their edges dark and jagged, tiny streams of mineral deposits glowing faintly within the cracks. Even here, deep within the ancient rock, small colonies of bioluminescent bacteria cling quietly to the stone. The pilot studies the sonar display carefully, because the instruments continue detecting an enormous open space beyond the ridge, perhaps the largest cavern within the entire mountain. The submarine engines hum softly, then slowly. The vessel rises slightly, gliding over the crest of the towering ridge, and gradually the hidden chamber beyond comes into view. The cavern is immense, far larger than any basin explored so far. Its ceiling disappears into darkness high above the submarine, while the cavern floor stretches outward in every direction, creating the feeling of an underground ocean buried deep within the mountain itself. The terrain here looks ancient, almost untouched. Large volcanic formations rise from the basin floor, their shapes massive and uneven. Some resemble towering cliffs, others look like broken mountain peaks scattered across the chamber. Tiny particles drift slowly through the still water, settling across the dark terrain below. And gradually, life begins to appear. Small translucent fish move quietly between the volcanic formations, their pale bodies barely visible within the darkness. Soft lines of bioluminescent light glow gently along their sides. Clusters of shrimp-like creatures crawl slowly across the rocky surfaces, feeding on microscopic bacteria growing around the mineral deposits. The ecosystem here appears sparse but resilient, perfectly adapted to the deep, ancient basin. The submarine glides deeper into the cavern, its lights revealing more of the vast chamber with every passing moment. But suddenly, the sonar instruments detect something unusual. Multiple, large signals moving slowly through the far side of the basin. The pilot turns the submarine lights toward the distant shadows. For a moment, nothing appears. Then slowly, a massive shape moves between the dark cliffs. A long, powerful body glides silently through the ancient basin, followed by two more enormous forms moving behind it. Three giant creatures circling quietly within the deepest cavern of the mountain. Their bodies dark, their movements calm, perfectly adapted to life within this hidden world. For a moment, one of the creatures passes through the faint beam of the submarine lights, its enormous body reflecting a soft shimmer before vanishing once again into the outer darkness of the cavern. The submarine remains still, floating quietly within the center of the vast basin, while the sonar instruments continue mapping the unexplored edges of the chamber. And slowly, another discovery appears on the display. At the far end of the ancient basin, a massive circular formation rises from the cavern floor, a towering structure built entirely from mineral deposits, perhaps formed slowly by geothermal forces over thousands of years. At its center, The instruments detect another deep opening, a vertical tunnel descending farther into the mountain. The submarine lights turn slowly toward the distant formation, while the silent cavern waits patiently for the next stage of the journey through the lost world beneath the Pacific Ocean. Deeper, older, and more mysterious than ever before. The submarine drifts slowly across the ancient basin. Behind the vessel, the enormous cavern with its towering volcanic cliffs fades quietly into darkness. Ahead, the strange circular formation rises from the cavern floor, a massive ring built entirely from mineral towers, their surfaces layered with pale deposits formed slowly by geothermal water rising through the rock. The submarine lights move carefully across the formation, revealing dozens of tall mineral pillars arranged in a wide circle. Each tower stands like an ancient monument, silent, motionless, yet alive with faint chemical activity. Thin streams of warm mineral water flow slowly between the towers, creating soft, shimmering waves in the dark water. The pilot studies the sonar display carefully, because the instruments show something unusual at the center of the ring, a deep vertical shaft, descending far below the cavern floor. The submarine glides closer to the towering structure, and gradually, small forms of life begin to appear around the mineral pillars. Tiny, shrimp-like creatures crawl slowly along the surfaces, feeding on microscopic bacteria growing across the minerals. Small blind fish circle quietly through the warm currents rising from the stone, their bodies pale, their eyes nearly gone, after countless generations living in total darkness. Soft pulses of bioluminescent light glow gently along their sides, creating faint flashes between the mineral towers. The ecosystem here appears delicate, yet stable, perfectly adapted to the geothermal energy flowing through the rock. The submarine moves slowly over the outer edge of the circular formation, and now the central opening comes into view. A wide shaft cut deep into the mountain, its walls smooth as if polished by centuries of mineral-rich water flow. The sonar instruments send pulses downward into the shaft. The signals travel deeper and deeper before returning to the vessel, and the readings are extraordinary. The tunnel descends far beyond the basin, leading toward another hidden chamber deep beneath the mountain, perhaps the deepest region within the entire cavern system. But suddenly, the sonar instruments detect movement, several large signals circling slowly around the outer edge of the mineral ring. The pilot turns the submarine lights toward the distant shadows. For a moment, nothing appears. Then, slowly, a massive creature emerges from the darkness, a long body gliding silently between the towering pillars, its skin dark and smooth, reflecting faint blue light from the bioluminescent bacteria growing across the towers. Another enormous form moves behind it, then another. 3 giant predators circling the mineral ring, as if guarding the ancient formation. Their movements calm, patient, perfectly adapted to life within the hidden basin. For a moment, one of the creatures passes close to the submarine lights, its enormous eye reflecting a faint shimmer before the animal glides away into the outer darkness of the cavern. The submarine remains still, floating quietly above the mineral ring, while the sonar instruments continue mapping the deep shaft below. And gradually, another discovery appears on the display. The tunnel beneath the ring widens dramatically several hundred meters below, forming a vast hollow space beneath the basin floor. A chamber, larger than any discovered so far. The submarine lights turn slowly toward the dark opening at the center of the ring, while the silent predators continue their slow circles through the ancient cavern, and the long exploration of the lost world beneath the Pacific Ocean moves one step deeper, toward the oldest chamber hidden within the mountain. The submarine remains still, hovering quietly above the ancient mineral ring. Around the vessel, the towering pillars stand motionless within the dark cavern, their surfaces glowing faintly with delicate colonies of bioluminescent bacteria. Soft currents move slowly between the mineral towers, carrying dissolved minerals upward from the depths below. For a few silent moments, nothing changes. The three enormous predators continue circling slowly around the outer edge of the formation. Their long bodies glide effortlessly through the dark water, silent guardians of the hidden basin. The pilot studies the sonar display carefully, because the readings from the central shaft are remarkable. The tunnel beneath the ring descends far deeper than any passage explored so far, and several hundred meters below, the instruments detect a vast open chamber, perhaps the oldest region of the entire cavern network. The submarine engines hum softly, then slowly, very slowly, the vessel begins its descent. The mineral towers rise gently above the submarine until the ring formation fades into darkness far overhead. Now, the vessel moves quietly through the vertical shaft beneath the basin floor. The rock walls around the tunnel appear smooth, polished slowly by centuries of geothermal water flow. Thin mineral streams run through the stone, creating delicate patterns across the cavern walls. Small organisms cling quietly to the rock surfaces, colonies of glowing bacteria spreading faint light along the cracks. Even here, deep beneath the mineral ring, life continues to survive, feeding on chemical energy released from the ancient rock. The submarine continues its slow descent, and gradually a faint glow begins to appear far below. At first, only a distant shimmer, barely visible through the darkness, but as the vessel moves deeper, the glow grows stronger. The pilot studies the sonar instruments again. The chamber below is enormous, larger than any cavern encountered so far during the journey. The submarine lowers through the final section of the shaft, and slowly, the hidden chamber comes into view. The basin floor spreads outward in every direction, forming a vast underground sea beneath the mountain. Dozens of geothermal vents rise from the cavern floor, tall mineral chimneys releasing clouds of warm mineral water into the dark basin. The vents glow softly, their heat illuminating the chamber with a dim orange light. Around the vents, life thrives. Clusters of pale tube worms grow along the chimneys, their delicate red plumes swaying gently within the warm currents. White crabs crawl slowly across the mineral towers, feeding on bacteria that grow around the vents. Strange fish move quietly through the glowing basin, their bodies thin and almost transparent, perfectly adapted to the deep geothermal world. But suddenly, the sonar instruments detect something enormous, a massive signal moving slowly through the far side of the chamber. The submarine lights turn carefully toward a distant shadow. For a moment, nothing appears. only the glowing vents and drifting mineral clouds. Then slowly, a giant shape moves through the basin, a long, powerful body gliding silently between the geothermal towers, larger than any creature seen so far within the cavern system. The animal circles slowly through the glowing field, its dark skin reflecting the orange light of the vents below. For a moment, the creature approaches the outer beam of the submarine lights, its enormous form revealed briefly within the dim glow. Then calmly, it turns away, disappearing once again into the deeper darkness of the hidden chamber. The submarine remains still, floating quietly within the glowing basin, while the geothermal vents continue their endless flow. And the sonar instruments reveal something else. At the very center of the chamber floor, a massive stone formation rises slowly from the basin. An ancient structure built from mineral deposits, formed slowly by centuries of geothermal activity. And within that formation, another dark opening, a final passage, leading even deeper into the heart of the lost world beneath the Pacific Ocean. The journey is not finished yet. The submarine floats quietly within the deepest chamber of the hidden mountain. Around the vessel, the geothermal vents continue their endless flow. Tall mineral chimneys release slow clouds of warm mineral water into the dark basin. Soft orange light glows gently through the cavern, illuminating the strange ecosystem that thrives in this secret world beneath the Pacific Ocean. Clusters of pale tube worms sway slowly within the rising currents. White crabs crawl carefully across the mineral towers, feeding on bacteria that grow along the warm vents. Small shrimp-like creatures drift quietly through the glowing basin, moving gently between the tall chimneys. Far beyond the submarine lights, massive shadows continue gliding silently through the dark water. Ancient predators of the hidden world, moving calmly through the geothermal basin, perfectly adapted to life inside this underground ocean. For a few peaceful moments, the submarine remains still, recording the final observations from the deepest chamber inside the mountain. The sonar instruments continue mapping the surrounding cavern, revealing once again the vast network of tunnels and chambers hidden beneath the seafloor. Ancient passages, fractured corridors, silent basins that have remained untouched for centuries. A forgotten ocean buried deep beneath the Pacific, a place where life has evolved quietly in complete isolation, protected by darkness and hidden far below the surface world. After a moment, the submarine engines activate softly and slowly, very slowly. The vessel begins to rise, the glowing geothermal basin fades gently beneath the submarine. The tall mineral chimneys disappear into darkness while the vessel ascends through the deep, vertical shaft above the chamber. The ancient tunnels appear again, their smooth stone walls gliding silently past the observation windows. Faint colonies of bioluminescent bacteria glow softly along the rock surfaces. Small fish drift quietly through the dark water, their pale bodies barely visible within the cavern. The submarine continues its long ascent through the hidden mountain, and one by one, the caverns of the lost world fade quietly behind. The fractured corridors, the glowing basins, the ancient volcanic chambers, all returning once more to their silent isolation. Soon, a faint blue light appears above the distant ocean beyond the cavern system. The submarine glides slowly through the final tunnel and emerges once again into the vast Pacific Ocean. Above, the endless water stretches quietly toward the distant surface, calm, silent, and mysterious. Far below, the hidden world within the mountain remains undisturbed, its ancient ecosystems continuing quietly in the darkness, perhaps untouched for centuries more. A secret ocean buried beneath the seafloor, a lost world hidden deep within the Pacific, waiting patiently for another explorer to discover its secrets. And somewhere, far below the waves, within the glowing caverns of the ancient mountain, life continues moving slowly. In the silent darkness of the lost world beneath the Pacific Ocean, the submarine floats quietly within the deepest cavern of the hidden mountain. Around the vessel, the geothermal vents continue releasing warm mineral water into the dark basin. Tall mineral chimneys rise from the cavern floor, their glowing plumes moving slowly through the still water. Soft orange light spreads gently across the ancient chamber, illuminating the strange ecosystem that has survived here for countless generations. Clusters of pale tube worms sway slowly within the warm currents. White crabs crawl carefully along the mineral towers, feeding on the bacteria that grow around the vents. Tiny shrimp-like creatures drift quietly through the glowing water, moving slowly between the tall chimneys that surround the basin floor. Beyond the reach of the submarine lights, massive shadows continue gliding silently through the darkness. Ancient predators of the hidden world, creatures that have lived here for centuries, perfectly adapted to life inside this underground ocean. For a few peaceful moments, the submarine remains still, allowing its instruments to record the final observations from the deepest chamber ever discovered inside the mountain. The sonar display continues mapping the vast cavern, revealing once more the immense network of tunnels and chambers hidden beneath the seafloor. Ancient passages stretching silently through volcanic rock, fractured corridors leading toward forgotten basins, and deep vertical shafts descending even farther into the mountain. An entire world hidden beneath the ocean, protected by darkness and untouched by the surface above. Slowly, the submarine engines activate once more. The vessel begins its gentle ascent, rising slowly above the glowing geothermal basin. The tall mineral chimneys fade gradually into darkness below, while the submarine climbs through the ancient shaft that leads back toward the upper caverns. The silent tunnels appear again, their stone walls moving slowly past the observation windows. Faint colonies of glowing bacteria spread across the rock, soft blue light marking the hidden pathways within the mountain. Small fish drift quietly through the cavern water, their bodies pale and delicate, perfectly adapted to the endless darkness. One by one, the chambers of the lost world fade quietly behind, the glowing basins, the fractured corridors, the silent mineral towers, all returning once more to their quiet isolation beneath the ocean floor. Soon, a faint blue glow appears ahead, the distant Pacific Ocean beyond the cavern system. The submarine glides slowly through the final passage and emerges once again into the vast open sea. Above, the endless water stretches toward the surface, calm, silent, and mysterious. Far below, the hidden caverns of the ancient mountain remain undisturbed, their strange ecosystems continuing quietly in the darkness, perhaps untouched for centuries more. A secret world buried beneath the Pacific, a forgotten ocean hidden deep within the earth, and somewhere, far below the waves, within the glowing caverns of the mountain, life continues moving slowly, unaware that its hidden world has just been seen for the very first time. The ocean above remains calm, endless, and full of mysteries still waiting to be discovered. If you enjoyed this deep-sea documentary, don't forget to like the video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to Unseen Ocean History for more journeys into the hidden worlds of the ocean.